Chapter 1067. Lord Bai Lu, the culprit who destroyed the Sea Shaman tribe's elder group, is hiding in the forbidden area. Do you want us to go in and capture him? No need. I'll do it myself. All of you can just help me from the side. That ghost-masked murderer is extremely daring. He actually killed the one king and 3 venerables that his honor placed in the Sea Wizard tribe. Putting aside how daring he is, I'm afraid that his strength is also not small. You all must not underestimate this person. He is an existence that can kill an immortal king. Also, the forbidden area of the Sea Valley is not a good place. There's a sea demon in the Sea Shaman tribe. When we go in and search for that ghost-masked murder, we need to be more careful. Don't make too much noise, lest we anger that sea demon, Taoist Master Bai Lu said solemnly. The Lord he mentioned was naturally the 100 Flowers Emperor. However, when he mentioned the sea demon, even with his identity as the peak lord of the first secondary peak of the 100 Flowers Peak and his cultivation base at the peak of the Immortal King realm, he still felt a little fearful. Why is Lord so afraid of that sea demon? It's true that rumor has it that the sea demon has the strength of Immortal Emperor Ho Tui. However, that is only a rumor after all. No one has seen it with their own eyes. Moreover, that demon has been subdued by Lord before. In front of us, the 100 Flowers sect, what can that sea demon do? It's just a slave of Lord. Lord is a peak of the Immortal King realm. When the time comes, there's a great chance for you to become a sovereign. Why would you be afraid of a mere sea demon? Another old immortal venerable said disapprovingly. The matter of Immortal Emperor Ho Tui is not a rumor. On the contrary, the matter of the slave is the real rumor. That sea demon is not Lord's slave. That year, Your Excellency, the reason why Lord was able to control the Sea Shaman tribe and successfully take it under his command was because he made a deal with that sea demon. At that time, his honor's original intention was to subdue this demon with force. Unfortunately, with his honor's cultivation, he couldn't do it. I only know a little about the specific transaction. I only know that his honor has always been looking for an answer, and that answer is related to the sea demon. Alright, these things are not what you need to care about. All of you only need to remember one thing. When you enter the forbidden area of the Sea Valley, make sure to keep your movements to a minimum. However, you don't have to be too afraid of the sea demon. No matter what, this demon has made a deal with his honor. As long as you don't go too far, he won't attack you. As he spoke, Taoist Master Bai Lu faintly smiled. With a wave of his hand, the space of the Sea Valley forbidden area was instantly torn open by him. Just as he was about to lead his men in, his eyes suddenly narrowed, and he stopped in his tracks. The spatial rift he had torn open suddenly flashed, and an ugly old man with red hair, red skin, and black teeth appeared. The old man's entire body was hidden inside the windbreaker. He didn't reveal a single bit of his aura, but all the cultivators present felt their hearts skip a beat. It was as if this ugly old man represented the might of the heavens. This road is blocked. All of you can get lost. When the ugly old man spoke, it seemed to be extremely strenuous. However, his words carried a vast immortal emperor aura, causing Bai Lu and the others to cough out blood and retreat. Their expressions finally changed. Because this ugly old man was none other than the king of the Sea Valley forbidden area, the sea demon. This was what the sea demon looked like after taking human form. If one looked closely, they would find that when the old man's windbreaker fluttered in the wind, the body that was occasionally revealed was filled with strange black rods. In the face of the sea devil's aura, few cultivators could remain calm. Even the 2 primordial celestial sovereigns were a little scared. Obviously, they didn't expect the sea demon to be this strong. It really had the aura of an immortal emperor like the rumors said. Among the group, Taoist Master Bai Lu's cultivation was the highest, but before the sea demon's aura, he was also a bit scared. Helplessly, the sea demon had blocked the entrance of the Sea Valley forbidden area and wouldn't let them in. Thus, Taoist Master Bai Lu could only brace himself and force his aura to speak to the sea demon. Demon Monarch, what do you mean? We are under the order of the 100 Flowers Emperor to enter the Sea Valley forbidden area to capture a murderer. Why is the demon monarch blocking our way? Murderer? The Sea Valley Forbidden Area doesn't have the murderer you're looking for. Scram. Impossible. Someone saw with their own eyes that the ghost-masked cultivator escaped into the Sea Valley Forbidden Area after killing the murderer. Since then, the Sea Valley Forbidden Area hasn't reopened, so the murderer is naturally still inside. Why is the demon monarch lying through his teeth? Could it be that he wants to protect the murderer and not let us capture him? The immortal sovereign behind Taoist Master by Lu said unhappily. However, just as he finished speaking, the sea demon shot a cold, knife-like gaze at him. The immortal sovereign felt a sharp pain in his sea of consciousness. He knelt on the ground and coughed up blood. Just one gaze from the sea demon had injured his sea of consciousness. Scram. What a domineering aura. A gaze that looked down on the world. This sea demon was actually a bit stronger than the 100 Flowers Emperor at her peak. Taoist Master Bai Lu was both shocked and angry. He was shocked that the sea demon's strength was a bit stronger than he expected. He was angry that the sea demon actually dared to attack the 100 Flowers sect. Looks like the demon monarch is intentionally protecting the ghost-masked cultivator. Did the demon monarch forget the deal with our 100 Flowers Emperor? The 100 Flowers Emperor, will think of a way to remove the black stick from your body, and the demon monarch will need to rely on my 100 Flowers peak and listen to my orders. Today, the demon monarch is stopping us from capturing him. In the future, don't even think about getting our lord to remove the black stick curse for you. There's no need for this old man to say how painful the black stick curse is, right? The sea demon lost his patience and didn't want to waste any more words with Taoist Master Bai Lu. He waved his hand and Taoist Master Bai Lu and the others felt a gust of black wind sweep by. In the blink of an eye, they were thrown thousands of kilometers away by the sea demon. Even their origin souls showed signs of being thrown away by the sea demon. After stabilizing themselves with great difficulty, the expressions of the 100 Flowers sect disciples were all uncertain. Everyone could tell that old sea fiend had the intention to protect that ghost-faced murderer. If the sea demon insisted on protecting the ghost-masked murderer, then no matter what, they wouldn't be able to pass through the sea demon's obstruction and enter the Sea Valley Forbidden Area. This was because the sea demon was terrifyingly powerful. But what should we do now? This old thing is too much of a hindrance. How are we going to enter the Sea Valley Forbidden Area to capture him? A few 100 Flowers sect disciples who were eager to make a contribution said unwillingly. If we can't enter, then don't enter. There's only one spatial rift in the Sea Valley Forbidden Area that leads to the outside world. We'll wait nearby. I don't believe that the ghost-masked murderer will stay in the Forbidden Area forever. But if he really doesn't come out for the rest of his life, don't worry. That person is obviously a lawless devil Dao cultivator. Otherwise, he wouldn't have ignored the rules of the Great Bay Plains and openly started a massacre in the Sea Witch tribe. Even if he knows that we're waiting here to capture him, he won't avoid coming out because of this. If he has fear in his heart, it won't be good for his devil Dao cultivation. As long as he takes the initiative to walk out of the Sea Valley Forbidden Area, no matter how powerful the sea demon is, can he still protect a criminal in the territory of the Great Bay tribe? Taoist Master Bai Lu said confidently. In truth, he was extremely afraid of the sea demon and didn't want to fight the terrifying sea demon head-on. Ning Fan, who was cultivating diligently in the profound Yin world, naturally did not know that the sea demon who fought with him just now would actually come forward to help him block some troubles. If it wasn't for the sea demon, Taoist Master Bai Lu and the others would have entered the forbidden area of the Sea Valley unimpeded and found the place where Ning Fan entered the profound Yin world. Then, they would find a way to tear open the profound Yin world and enter it to capture Ning Fan. The profound Yin world was a world with a medium kiliacosm treasure. To ordinary true immortals, a medium kiliacosm treasure might be a heaven-defying item. However, to existences like Taoist Master Bai Lu, even if Ning Fan enters the profound Yin world, he could still find a way to capture him. At this level, it was even more impossible for him to hide in the profound Yin world to protect himself. Unknowingly, Ning Fan owed some karma to the sea demon. However, he was not aware of it at the moment. Of course, even if the sea demon doesn't take action, Ning Fan's cultivation would at most be interrupted by Taoist Master Bai Lu tearing open the profound Yin world. He still had the ability to deal with Taoist Master Bai Lu. No matter what, he could not even defeat the sea demon with his current abilities. Why would he be afraid of a mere Taoist Master Bai Lu? From this point of view, even though he owed some karma to the sea demon, it was not a big deal. Wu Yen had yet to wake up. Together with Wu Na, Ning Fan temporarily placed them in the eastern profound Yin world to stay together with the human cauldrons. As for Ning Fan, he continued his dull cultivation in the western profound Yin world. He had already broken through all the tribulations of his void renunciation realm. Thus, the rapid improvement of his ancient god and demon cultivation base became a matter of course. Ning Fan did not dare to hope for a great improvement in his thought fragmentation realm. However, the rapid improvement of his void renunciation realm was not a difficult task for Ning Fan, who possessed a large amount of medicinal herbs for pill refinement. After making some preparations, Ning Fan entered the first Millennium Tower. Previously, he had successfully cultivated the Yin-Yang Lightning Realm. Logically speaking, every time he cultivates a Yin-Yang Lightning Realm, his cultivation base would improve tremendously. Unfortunately, due to the heart tribulation, his ancient god cultivation base, which should have improved tremendously, was stuck at the mid-shedding void renunciation realm, unable to advance to the late-shedding void renunciation realm. Now that the heart tribulation was completed, the belated improvement of the Yin-Yang Lightning Realm directly made Ning Fan's ancient god cultivation base skyrocket all the way to the late-shedding void renunciation realm. Moreover, it was halfway towards the peak-shedding void renunciation realm. Ning Fan spent 100 years to stabilize the Yin-Yang Lightning Realm, and his cultivation base skyrocketed. In the remaining time, he spent concocting pills and planting trees at the same time to improve his cultivation base. Since he could not purchase and concoct 9 Revolutions golden pills in bulk through the ancient country's trading formation, he could only settle for the next best thing, which was to concoct 9 Revolutions silver pills in bulk. Concocting pills, consuming pills, concocting pills, consuming pills. In his dull cultivation life, Ning Fan's only pleasure was watering the Tree of 7 Wonders and the 4 Emperor's Arhat pines. When the Tree of 7 Wonders grew to 700 zhang tall, watering the Dao spring below the 6th grade had almost lost its effect. Fortunately, Ning Fan had obtained a large amount of 6th grade Dao spring from the 100 Flowers Emperor's treasury and bought a large amount of 5th grade Dao spring from the heaven-reaching cult. Thus, the Tree of 7 Wonders could continue to grow. Moreover, the remaining Dao spring that was used to water the Tree of 7 Wonders could also be used to water the 4 Emperor's Arhat pines. When the immortal emperor of the Meng family intercepted him, Ning Fan had used the 4 Emperor's Arhat pines as bait. Almost all of the 30 million flying swords were lost. Currently, the 4 Emperor's Arhat pines only had bare branches left. It looked rather horrible. However, as Ning Fan continued to water and nurture it, the branches of the 4 Emperor's Arhat pines turned green again and new flying swords made of pine needles began to grow. After walking out of the first Millennium Tower, Ning Fan's ancient god cultivation base was only a step away from the peak-shedding void realm, while his ancient demon cultivation base had advanced to the late-shedding void realm. After another 1,000 years, Ning Fan's ancient god cultivation base had completely broken through to the peak-shedding void realm, while his ancient demon cultivation base had advanced by 1/3. 4,000 years later, Ning Fan's ancient demon cultivation base had also broken through to the peak-shedding void realm. 6,000 years later, Ning Fan's ancient god and ancient demon cultivation base had already reached their limits. They could no longer make any further progress unless they break through the bottleneck and attain the thought fragmentation realm. From the 7th Millennium Tower onwards, Ning Fan no longer concocted the 9 Revolutions silver pill that could increase his cultivation base. Instead, he began to concoct a type of pill called the Heaven Enlightenment Pill. It was a type of 9 Revolutions silver pill that could help Ning Fan break through the bottleneck of the thought fragmentation realm. Cultivators at the thought fragmentation realm cultivated their Dao sense. The abilities and magic techniques they cast usually contained Dao sense. Thus, Their destructive power was far beyond that of the void-shedding void realm. In fact, Ning Fan was not unfamiliar with Dao Sense. He had once created the West Wind technique, which was a type of ability that integrated Dao Sense into it. Since Ning Fan already had the experience of using Dao Sense, he had the greatest advantage compared to other cultivators who were breaking through the bottleneck of the thought fragmentation realm. Since Ning Fan's overall strength had already far surpassed the first level of the thought fragmentation realm, he could lower the risk of breaking through the bottleneck to an extremely low level. This was his second advantage. Moreover, he was a 9 revolutions silver pill refinement master. Thus, he had concocted more than 1,000 heaven enlightenment pills regardless of the cost. The total value of the pills he consumed alone was already a few times more than the wealth of an ordinary thought fragmentation realm cultivator. It was definitely not a treatment that ordinary cultivators could enjoy when breaking through the bottleneck of the thought fragmentation realm. With all kinds of advantages, Ning Fan's cultivation base was naturally getting closer to the thought fragmentation realm. The 8,000 years had passed, the 9,000 years had passed. When he walked out of the 9th Millennium Tower, his ancient god and ancient demon cultivation base had finally broken through to the early thought fragmentation realm without a hitch. At the same time, he also slightly experienced the profoundness of the ability of the thought fragmentation realm cultivators. Word execution and Dao birth with thought. Word execution was a technique that only mid-thought fragmentation realm cultivators could master. They could use their Dao sense to communicate with the laws of heaven and earth. Dao birth with thought was a technique that only late thought fragmentation realm cultivators could master. Currently, Ning Fan still could not achieve these two things. However, after attaining the early thought fragmentation realm, Ning Fan clearly felt that the connection between him and heaven and earth was much closer than before. The speed at which he absorbed and refined the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was a few times faster than when he was in the void-shedding realm. It was also much easier for him to condense the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to form his ability. Unfortunately, the pills that Ning Fan had could not support his cultivation of the thought fragmentation realm. His 7 treasures wondrous tree had also gradually reached a bottleneck and could no longer produce any fruits. As a result, the improvement of his cultivation base had to stop for the time being. In the 10,000 years, Ning Fan was consolidating his ancient god and ancient demon cultivation base in the Tower of Time. He was familiarizing himself with the Dao sense technique of the thought fragmentation realm cultivators. At the same time, he was also sensing the qualitative change of his cultivation base from the stream to the ocean. His previous premonition was right. When his ancient god, ancient demon and ancient devil cultivation base attained the first grade of the thought fragmentation realm, certain changes began to take place between the 3 bloodlines. Ancient god magic power, ancient demon spiritual power and ancient devil essence chi gradually flowed back from his meridians. Like millions of tiny streams, they flowed into Ning Fan's primordial spirit and gathered continuously. Ning Fan's primordial spirit kept expanding. Gradually, it could no longer be accommodated by his small dantian. As a result, Ning Fan had no choice but to let his primordial spirit leave his body and continue to grow in this unknown way. He could feel that this qualitative change was not a bad thing. Instead, it was a good thing. It was a great achievement that he had achieved after cultivating the yin-yang transformation for countless years. It was an important moment that only belonged to the cultivators of the yin-yang transformation. According to Ning Fan's understanding of the yin-yang transformation cultivation method, this qualitative change in his cultivation base was a stage that he would definitely experience after cultivating the yin-yang transformation to a certain extent. However, for some reason, the yin-yang transformation cultivation method did not mention anything about this stage of qualitative change in his cultivation base. Even the inherited memories of the great Emperor Ancient Chaos did not record such a thing. When Ning Fan walked out of the 10th Millennium Tower, his primordial spirit had already expanded to the size of 100 zhang. When Ning Fan walked out of the 12th Millennium Tower, his primordial spirit was already as huge as a 1,000 zhang tall mountain. When Ning Fan walked out of the 17th Millennium Tower, his primordial spirit was already no smaller than some low-grade cultivation planets. When Ning Fan walked out of the 23rd Millennium Tower, his primordial spirit had actually grown to the size of a mid-grade cultivation planet. Ning Fan had already used up all of the Millennium Tower. What was left were only the last 9 Millennium Towers. Ning Fan did not know how long this qualitative change in his cultivation base would take. If he were to count carefully, his primordial spirit had already left his body for 13,000 years. If it were other cultivators, their physical bodies would probably have long lost their vitality after leaving their bodies for such a long time. However, for some unknown reason, when Ning Fan's primordial spirit underwent a qualitative change, his physical body also seemed to be going through some kind of indescribable qualitative change. It did not lose its vitality. Instead, it was being subtly modified in the long river of time. When the Millennium Tower was used up, Ning Fan finally decided to enter a Millennium Tower. After another 10,000 years, his primordial spirit grew to the size of a high-grade cultivation planet. Then, he entered the second and third Tower of Time. When he walked out of the third Millennium Tower, his primordial spirit finally grew to the size of an emperor-grade cultivation planet. After a long period of time, Ning Fan could clearly feel the changes that happened to his primordial spirit. The process of his primordial spirit growing bigger was like the process of a bubble being filled with air and constantly expanding. For something like a bubble, the more it expands, the thinner its membrane would be and the easier it would burst. If an ordinary bubble could grow to the size of a cultivation planet continuously without bursting, then the membrane of this bubble must have reached an unimaginable level. Ning Fan's primordial spirit was in such a situation. The continuous expansion of his primordial spirit did not directly increase his cultivation base. Instead, it increased the toughness of the membrane of his primordial spirit to an unimaginable level. From the 4th Millennium Tower onwards, Ning Fan's primordial spirit began to shrink. The speed of its shrinking was much faster than its expansion. In just 10,000 years, his primordial spirit returned to its normal size. On the surface, Ning Fan's primordial spirit did not seem to have any changes compared to before. However, when Ning Fan tried to use a 12th Nirvana magic treasure to attack his primordial spirit, he actually managed to resist the attack of a 12th Nirvana magic treasure with just the toughness of his primordial spirit itself. According to Ning Fan's estimation, with the current strength of his primordial spirit, he would not suffer too much damage even if he withstands the attack of an innate magic treasure. This was truly an extraordinary story. According to Ning Fan's understanding, even the golden primordial spirit of an immortal emperor would not be able to withstand the attack of a 12th Nirvana magic treasure without using any defensive methods. There was no one else in the 4 heavens and 9 worlds who had such a high defensive power of their primordial spirit. It was highly possible that he was the only one. What did this mean? It meant that many secret techniques in the cultivation world that specialized in attacking the primordial spirit would no longer be able to harm his primordial spirit in the slightest. This also meant that if he uses some abilities or magic treasures that would cause a backlash to his primordial spirit, the damage to his primordial spirit would be greatly reduced. My physical body seems to have undergone a great change as well. After his primordial spirit had left his body for countless years, Ning Fan finally made it return to his dantian. His physical body, which had been sleeping for tens of thousands of years, finally opened its eyes again. As soon as it opened its eyes, the first expression on its face was astonishment. After his primordial spirit returned to his body, Ning Fan was shocked to realize the tremendous changes in his physical body. The power of his physical body did not increase. However, the defensive power of his physical body had actually risen to an extremely terrifying level. Ning Fan tried using his physical body to directly withstand the attack of a 12th Nirvana magic treasure. To his surprise, he was completely unscathed. Not even a scratch was left on his body. Is this the physical defense that a 10th Nirvana heavenly devil can achieve? Then, Ning Fan tried using his innate magic treasures. Of course, he did not have any offensive innate magic treasures. He just used the few non-offensive innate magic treasures to test the strength of his physical body. The result he got was that a single non-offensive innate magic treasure could only leave an extremely tiny wound on his skin, a wound that did not even leave a trace of blood on his skin. The combined power of 4 non-offensive innate magic treasures could barely reach the power of 1 offensive innate magic treasure. However, they could only leave a light wound on his physical body and slightly break his skin. In terms of physical defense alone, his current physical body was not much weaker than the Sea Devil who had an immortal Emperor Realm cultivation base. He had completely turned into a human-shaped devil beast. The toughness of my primordial spirit and physical body have increased tremendously. My Sea of Consciousness seems to have changed as well. After being shocked by the changes in his physical body, Ning Fan then checked his Sea of Consciousness. The changes in his Sea of Consciousness were also tremendous. In terms of toughness, it was the same as his primordial spirit and physical body. Both of them had increased to an unimaginable level. Only innate magic treasures could harm Ning Fan's Sea of Consciousness. Even the thin thread of spirit sense that Ning Fan released was so tough that even a 12th Nirvana magic treasure could not cut it. A cultivator's spirit sense could actually be this tough? It was truly an amazing story. One should know that Ning Fan had yet to go to the deal with Supreme Nyogue and he had yet to obtain the complete divine art. Even so, the toughness of his spirit sense had increased to an unprecedented level because of the qualitative change. Ning Fan gave it a try. With the current strength of his spirit sense, it was still not enough to display the forbidden technique of the cultivation world, spirit travel 10,000li. Thus, he could not fully display it. However, it seemed like he was already close to it. If he had not cultivated the complete divine art, the toughness of his spirit sense might be even higher than that of Supreme Nyogue. If he cultivates the complete divine art, he might even surpass the current Supreme Nyogue in terms of the toughness of his spirit sense. Is this what I guessed about the millions of streams turning into an ocean? It didn't bring about a direct increase in my cultivation, but in other aspects, it brought about an earth-shattering change in my strength. Under the same cultivation base, my primordial spirit, physical body, Sea of Consciousness and all other aspects are more than a few levels higher than others. Besides, after achieving this qualitative change in my cultivation base, I vaguely feel that when my divine, demon and devil cultivation base continues to increase to a certain level, there will be a second qualitative change. Xian Air cultivates the 9 revolutions lightning body. Every time her lightning body completes a revolution, her strength will increase tremendously. This qualitative change in my cultivation base is very similar to the evolution of Xian Air's lightning body. Can it be regarded as a revolution unique to yin-yang transformation cultivators? However, there are some things that I don't understand. Why wasn't this kind of qualitative change in cultivation base mentioned in the yin-yang transformation? Even the inherited memories of Great Emperor Ancient Chaos didn't mention anything about it. Is it because there is some kind of flaw in this matter that Great Emperor Ancient Chaos intentionally hid it from me? Or could it be that even Great Emperor Ancient Chaos himself didn't complete this kind of evolution? That's why he didn't mention this matter in any ancient records or memories. Ning Fan recalled the state of Great Emperor Ancient Chaos Broken Spirit. It seemed like the remaining primordial spirit of Great Emperor Ancient Chaos was only at the level of an ordinary immortal emperor, which was completely different from his primordial spirit that had undergone evolution. Could it be that Great Emperor Ancient Chaos really didn't go through this kind of evolution? If this is true, doesn't it mean that Ning Fan's cultivation of the yin-yang transformation had already surpassed Great Emperor Ancient Chaos who created the yin-yang transformation? Is this really possible? No, it's possible. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos cultivated the 3 elements of the divine, demon and devil tribulations. As for Ning Fan, he cultivated the 4 elements of the divine, demon and devil tribulations. Ning Fan examined his own body and his expression gradually turned solemn. Previously, he had placed all his attention on his primordial spirit, physical body and Sea of Consciousness. Only now did he realize that the relationship between the 4 elements in his body seemed to have undergone a tremendous change. In the past, his 4 elements of the divine, demon, and devil tribulations were in a chaotic relationship that opposed each other. However, after achieving the first revolution, which was similar to the yin-yang transformation, his 4 elements were no longer separated. Instead, they were officially divided into 2 camps. Yin and yang opposed each other. The devil tribulations were yang, the power that was recognized by heaven and earth. The divine, demon, and devil tribulations were yin, the power that was discarded by heaven and earth. In the past, the 3 elements of the divine, demon, and devil tribulations would more or less repel each other. Now, however, the power of yin had basically been unified and it was only opposing the power of yang. Besides, this kind of opposition was not completely a tit-for-tat situation. Instead, it was a harmonious relationship that both restrained and enhanced each other. When the power of yin and yang circulated within Ningfan's body, they actually followed the pattern of yin and yang fishes. They separated and intertwined with each other, circulating around Ningfan's primordial spirit. Such a scene where yin and yang opposed yet harmonious would probably not appear in Great Emperor Ancient Chaos's body. It was because Great Emperor Ancient Chaos's divine, demon, and devil tribulations were all yin and lacked the power of yang. Ningfan cultivated one more type of bloodline than Great Emperor Ancient Chaos. However, the difference between him and Great Emperor Ancient Chaos was not as simple as 4 or 3. Is the first revolution evolution that I've achieved today a precedent and a pioneering move for cultivators of the yin-yang transformation? The current me has greatly improved the quality of all aspects of my body. If I use the second power of water from the Drowning Realm bottle, I shouldn't have as serious of a backlash as before. Moreover, I already have the confidence to use the third power of water from the Drowning Realm bottle. Ningfan's eyes flashed. In the past, he did not dare to light up the third pattern of the Drowning Realm bottle. If he does that, he would probably be killed by the backlash of the bottle. Now, however, the strength of his physical body was almost comparable to a devil beast like the Sea Devil. Even though there would still be some burden when using the third power of water, it would not be fatal. What kind of power was the Drowning Realm bottle with the third power of water? Legend has it that in the era when the Devil Conferral Summit still existed, there was an ancient devil who rebelled. He gathered 7 rebel immortal emperors and tried to compete with the Devil Conferral Summit. In that battle, the Drowning Realm bottle came to the rebel world alone. He used the Drowning Realm bottle to seal the heavens and earth, drowning all living beings in the world including the 7 immortal emperors. It was the battle that made the Drowning Realm bottle famous. The Drowning Realm bottle with the third power of water possessed the power to destroy heaven and earth. That was the most terrifying aspect of a mid-grade innate magic treasure. It was a trump card that could kill ordinary immortal emperors. In the past, Ningfan might not have a trump card that could kill an immortal emperor. But now, if he unleashed his ferocious nature and drowned the 108 grasslands of the Great Humble Race, how many of the 5 emperors of the Middle State could survive? How many of them could survive on the Sacred Mountain? With my current strength, even if I face the Radiance Buddha, I won't be considered to be completely powerless. It's just that my seclusion this time has really lasted for a long time. To the outside world, I have entered and exited more than 20 time towers. The time that has passed is only a short period of time for the petals to fall from the tree to the ground. But to me, it has been a long period of more than 63,000 spring and autumn. Ningfan's bone age had increased to 120,000 years. Ordinary people who can attain the true crossing realm at this age could already be considered as the favored son of the heavens. As for Ningfan, he already had the power to kill an immortal emperor. He had used up all the time towers of 1,000 years, but he still had 5 time towers of 10,000 years left. Perhaps during his next seclusion, Ningfan would use up all the time towers. These time towers were all given to him by the strange eyeball. Speaking of which, that fellow has gone to the northern heaven with the candle bow. He should be living a good life. The corners of Ningfan's mouth curled into a smile. When he recalled the strange eyeball, he did not feel like he was recalling a senior. Instead, it was more like he was recalling a bad friend. Wu Yen had yet to wake up. Thus, Ning Fan left Wu Na and Wu Yen in the profound Yin world and walked out of it alone. As soon as he walked out of the profound Yin world, he sensed some changes at the location of the spatial crack of the forbidden area of the Sea Valley. At this moment, the spatial crack of the forbidden area of the Sea Valley was still open. An ugly old man with red hair and skin was standing guard at the location of the spatial crack, as if he was not going to pass. Judging from his chi, there was no doubt that this ugly old man was the Sea Devil. Why is the Sea Devil standing at the spatial crack? Ning Fan's body swayed and he flew toward the spatial crack. When one of his feet just landed on the spatial crack, tens of traces of killing intent from the outside world locked onto Ning Fan from 1,000 li away. Ning Fan looked at the Sea Devil and vaguely understood something. He was slightly surprised. "Is your seclusion over?" The Sea Devil asked. "Yes. How did Senior know that I'm in seclusion? What's going on here?" Ning Fan's eyes could see through 1,000 li. He saw Bai Lu and the others who were far away from him. However, he did not put them in his eyes at all. Became stronger again. "I'm really curious. I haven't seen you for a few days, and you've actually become so much stronger." But the sea demon didn't answer but asked instead. For some unknown reason, the current Ning Fan actually gave him a sense of oppression. This was not the case when he fought Ning Fan previously. The source of this kind of pressure did not only originate from the evolution of Ning Fan's strength but also the aura force of a superior being. It was a pressure that was unfamiliar to any cultivator at the end of the age of cultivation. No, it was not just the cultivators in the end of age. The mighty pressure of those who were in the upper echelons was too ancient. It was so ancient that it could be traced back to an even longer period of history before the three great true worlds were formed. Those who knew about it were rare. So, that's how it is. You've become a deity body? Deity body? What do you mean? Ning Fan was slightly startled and asked. "It seems like it's just a half-baked deity's body." The matter him to the altar. "I have something to tell you." Without waiting for Ning Fan's answer, the sea demon old man shook his head and flew away from the spatial crack with a secretive look on his face, returning to the altar. As soon as the sea demon old man left, Bai Lu and the others immediately returned to the forbidden area of the Ocean Valley. They did not waste any time talking to Ning Fan. Immediately, more than 10 cultivators took out their magic treasures and attacked Ning Fan, who was at the spatial crack. Ning Fan immediately frowned. He recognized these people. They were the cultivators from the various secondary peaks of the 100 Flowers Peak. When he was a distinguished guest of the 100 Flowers Peak, many of these people had invited him to a banquet. Of course, most of them just wanted to build a relationship with him or gain some enlightenment from him. Those magic treasures that were flying towards him were easily kept into his sleeves by Ning Fan. Then he wiped his face and kept the ghost face mask. He directly revealed his true appearance in front of these people and said expressionlessly, "If all of you retreat now, I can let you go and not pursue you." Ning Fan was very intelligent. When he saw that they were all disciples of the 100 Flowers sect, he knew that they were here to capture him. The reason was probably because he had killed the one king and 3 venerated beings that the 100 Flowers Emperor planted in the Sea Shaman tribe. Thus, Ning Fan revealed his true appearance. After revealing his true appearance, these people would have one more reason to kill him. Of course, if some of them really cared about the friendship they had during the banquet in the 100 Flowers Peak that day and sincerely regarded him as a friend, they might give up on pursuing him and leave this place after seeing his true appearance. For those who sincerely regarded him as a friend, it was not a big deal even if he took off his ghost face mask to see them. Ning Fan was not afraid of these cultivators in front of him. The reason why he did this was because he did not want to accidentally kill any of the disciples of the 100 Flowers sect who regarded him as a friend. That was all. Unfortunately, it seemed like Ning Fan was thinking too much. When he revealed his true appearance, the group of pursuers were first stunned. Then, their killing intent became even stronger. None of them cared about the fair-weather friendship they had with Ning Fan. "It's him! It's Ning Fan! It's that external cultivator who destroyed the punishment ring." The ghost-faced cultivator who committed murder in the Sea Shaman tribe is actually him. What an unexpected coincidence! This young man actually did not escape from the Supreme Pill sacred region. How did he avoid the Light Buddha's pursuit? This is great. This man has committed 2 serious crimes. Killing him is equivalent to obtaining 2 great merits at the same time. Kill! More and more abilities and magic treasures were released at Ning Fan. Only Reverend Bai Lu's eyes flashed with a hint of hesitation. That hesitation was naturally not because of his friendship with Ning Fan. He did not have any friendship with Ning Fan. There were only some old grudges between them. That day, he kindly suggested Ning Fan to sell his wife for glory. However, Ning Fan did not know how to appreciate his kindness and spoke ill of him. On that day, the golden flame ancestral token that Ning Fan hid in his sleeve had brought Reverend Bai Lu a life-threatening crisis. Even until today, Reverend Bai Lu still had a trace of fear towards Ning Fan. However, on second thought, he had also obtained an item from the 100-Flower Emperor this time. Even if Ning Fan possessed some kind of dangerous and precious treasure, there was no need for him to be too afraid of Ning Fan. With that in mind, Reverend Bai Lu also patted his storage pouch and released a ray of 12 Nirvana-acquired sword light, slashing at Ning Fan. Seeing that everyone attacked him without hesitation, the last trace of hesitation in Ning Fan's heart also melted. There were only enemies here and no friends. There was no better news than this. In that case, there was no need for him to show any mercy. In a flash, Ning Fan disappeared from his original spot. Then, one after another, a bewitching red light flashed in front of the disciples of the 100-Flower sect. Countless abilities and magic treasures that were attacking Ning Fan exploded under the impact of the red light. Even Reverend Bai Lu's 12 Nirvana flying swords were damaged by the red light. Immediately, Reverend Bai Lu felt a heartache and his expression turned gloomy. The few thought-breaking realm cultivators who were standing at the front did not even have the time to react when Ning Fan's red light engulfed them. Their bodies were penetrated by the red light and they died one after another. Their blood splattered all over the ground. That burly immortal venerate cultivator and the other immortal venerate old man were confident in their strength. They joined hands and rushed towards the red light that covered the sky. However, before they could even get close to the red light, they were sent flying while coughing out blood. Their faces were filled with shock. They were immortal venerates from the ancient times after all. However, they were actually no match for Ning Fan at all. Don't be careless. This external cultivator could kill a king and 3 venerated beings of the Sea Shaman tribe. He is definitely not an ordinary person. All of you, stand back and watch my methods. Reverend Bai Lu gave the order while moving forward in a flash. He took the initiative to fly towards the red light. He made a hand seal with his left hand and his right palm suddenly turned golden. Then, he fiercely slapped at the spot where the red light was the brightest. The sky turned dark. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth gathered from all directions and gathered on Reverend Bai Lu's palm. At this moment, it seemed like his palm had replaced all the light in the world. This palm imprint contained Reverend Bai Lu's lifetime comprehension of the Tao for 74 million years. This palm imprint contained Reverend Bai Lu's 27 billion days and nights of meditation and meditation. Almost at the moment when the palm imprint was formed, it had already reached Ning Fan. After all, it was the attack of a peak immortal king. It was fast and ruthless. Ning Fan, who was hiding in the red light, did not avoid the attack of this palm imprint. Or maybe he could avoid it, but he did not plan to do so. He did not think that such a palm imprint could threaten his safety at all. As the palm fell, the red light that covered the sky and Ning Fan himself were slammed into the ground by Reverend Bai Lu. After a violent earthquake, a gigantic palm-shaped crater that was 1,000 zhang large appeared on the vast and empty wasteland. At the center of the crater, all the mountains, rivers, plants, and living beings that were hit by the palm imprint were crushed into ashes by a destructive force. Ning Fan's figure could not be seen in the ruins that were piled up with ashes. This, Lord Bai Lu's Sumeru palm imprint is really powerful. It is indeed the ultimate technique that you learned from the sacred mountain. In the past, There was a fourth tribulation immortal king who came to our 100 Flowers Peak to cause trouble. Lord Bai Lu used this palm imprint to directly destroy that fourth tribulation immortal king's physical body. That external cultivator's cultivation base was far weaker than that of a fourth tribulation immortal king. After being hit by this palm imprint, I'm afraid he directly turned into ashes like the plants, mountains and rivers. That external cultivator should be proud to be able to die under Lord Bai Lu's famous ability. This is the price he has to pay for going against my 100 Flowers Peak. Reverend Bai Lu's expression was calm. He was not disturbed by the flattery around him at all. He frowned and stared at the gigantic crater on the ground. He could feel that Ning Fan's qi had yet to dissipate. The two ancient immortal venerables also sensed the existence of Ning Fan's qi. This young man doesn't seem to be dead. However, my palm imprint should have completely landed on his body. Even if he isn't dead yet, he is probably on the verge of death. That day, I told this young man about the great fortune of the spirit sect out of kindness. However, he was rude to me. Today, he was severely injured by my palm imprint. This is karma. Reverend Bai Lu smiled coldly. However, when he saw a figure standing up from the rubble unscathed, he could no longer smile anymore. Ning Fan dusted his sleeves and stood up from the rubble. Then, he looked at Reverend Bai Lu with narrowed eyes. This Reverend Bai Lu was indeed a peak immortal king. His palm actually made him feel a little pain. Of course, it was just a little pain. He wasn't injured at all. After all, his physical body was strong enough to withstand the attack of a 12th Nirvana magic treasure. After completing the first revolution of yin-yang transformation, he was very different from before. Ning Fan did not waste his breath on Reverend Bai Lu. However, most of the time, silent actions could make others feel humiliated. Reverend Bai Lu looked at Ning Fan in disbelief. He did not believe that Ning Fan could withstand the Sumru palm imprint that he used all his strength. He should have hit his target. He shouldn't have even activated his defensive ability. But why is he unharmed? I see. It's really an unimaginable illusion technique. It actually interfered with my judgment and made me believe that my attack had hit you. However, it turns out that my attack only hit the air. Your illusion technique can work once, but it can't save your life every time. This time, I have already divided my attention to guard my sea of consciousness. You definitely won't be able to use the same illusion technique on me again. Reverend Bai Lu's eyes suddenly widened and he said in realization. Ning Fan, who did not use any illusion technique, was slightly speechless. Qi Reverend Bai Lu's body swayed and disappeared from his original spot. Almost at the same time, he appeared behind Ning Fan. His left hand was still performing hand seals while his right hand made a golden palm imprint. Once again, he slammed it on Ning Fan's back. It was as if he wanted to channel all the power of the Buddha Dharma that he had condensed for 27 billion days and nights into Ning Fan's body. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the surroundings was instantly sucked dry by the palm imprint. Ning Fan still did not try to dodge this palm attack. After all, he had just completed the first revolution of the yin-yang transformation. When he took Reverend Bai Lu's first palm attack head-on, he actually wanted to test his strength. He did not have full confidence in himself. However, after the first palm attack, Ning Fan already had an accurate understanding of the power of Reverend Bai Lu's palm imprint. This level of palm imprint could not hurt him. At most, it would make him feel a little pain. Since that was the case, there was no need for him to dodge it. He might as well take the palm attack head-on and take the opportunity to counterattack. Ning Fan directly took Reverend Bai Lu's palm attack head-on with his back. The ground was blasted into countless pieces by the palm imprint. A palm-shaped hole was formed in the sky by Reverend Bai Lu's palm attack. Amidst the world-destroying shockwaves, a few disciples of the 100 Flowers sect who were too close to the attack were sent flying. They coughed out blood and were sent flying. Their faces were filled with shock. Most of the disciples of the 100 Flowers sect were withstanding the violent wind pressure of the palm imprint. While retreating, they raised their heads, hoping to see the hot-blooded scene of Reverend Bai Lu killing the sinner with a single palm attack. Ning Fan, who was at the center of the wind pressure of the palm imprint, failed to live up to everyone's expectations. He remained unscathed. Moreover, when Reverend Bai Lu's body stiffened after he launched his palm attack, Ning Fan turned around abruptly. His left hand gripped Reverend Bai Lu's wrist tightly as if it was seeking his life, preventing him from escaping. With a wave of his right hand, the ocean-defying sword appeared in his right hand and he thrust it at Reverend Bai Lu's dantung. At the same time, a voice that made Reverend Bai Lu's scalp tingle rang out from Ning Fan's mouth. "Got you." Chapter 1068. Taoist Master Bai Lu's wrist was gripped by Ning Fan. He struggled with all his might but to no avail. It was impossible for him to completely avoid the sword attack at such a close distance. All he could do was to grit his teeth and take the attack head-on. Fortunately, Taoist Master Bai Lu could vaguely see that the sea-defying sword was not a magic treasure but a Tao weapon. A Tao weapon usually did not have much power. In that case, he was confident that his dantian would not be damaged. At the critical moment, Taoist Master Bai Lu activated his mind. An armor that was comparable to a 12th Nirvana magic treasure immediately covered his entire body. Under the circulation of spiritual light, it naturally protected his dantian. The defense of this armor was already one of the best among the 12th Nirvana magic treasures. If it is used together with Taoist Master Bai Lu's special cultivation method, its defense could be further improved. Only innate magic treasures would be able to break its defense. It was a powerful treasure that had saved his life countless times in his long years of cultivation. If it's just a Tao weapon with the defense of my heaven-obscuring armor, it won't be a problem for me to take the attack head-on. It's just a Tao weapon. Boom! Taoist Master Bai Lu was sent flying by the tip of the sea-defying sword along with his armor. Then he flew backward while spurting out blood. He looked rather miserable. All the cultivators of the 100 Flowers sect were speechless. Obviously, they did not expect that Taoist Master Bai Lu's second attack would end up like this. Just as Taoist Master Bai Lu had expected, the defense of his armor was astonishing. Only innate magic treasures could break it. Besides, the sea-defying sword was not known for its sharpness. Thus, it did not pierce through the armor. However, Taoist Master Bai Lu did not expect the sea-defying sword to be so heavy. The armor could block the edge of the sea-defying sword, but it could not reduce the impact force of the Seven Stars sword. How was this like being stabbed by the tip of a Tao weapon? It was like being run over by a few incomparably large cultivation planets. The tremendous force penetrated through the defense of the armor and spread to all of Taoist Master Bai Lu's limbs and bones. Every inch of his flesh and bones felt like they were being crushed. Some injuries even appeared on his body. Those injuries were not too serious. However, after a few moves, Ning Fan was unscathed while he was injured. Obviously, he was at a disadvantage. Taoist Master White Deer managed to stabilize his body with great difficulty. His state of mind was already rippling and was no longer a calm lake. Putting aside the fact that he did not manage to injure Ning Fan after 2 consecutive palm strikes, the other party who was just a Tao soldier was actually this terrifying. Today's incident was definitely his first time encountering such a thing since he started cultivating the Tao. Strange, too strange. How could there be such a powerful Tao soldier in the world? Its weight was something that even his heaven-engulfing armor couldn't defend against. How could there be an ancient immortal venerable who could take 2 of his palm strikes head-on and come out unscathed? That kind of physical body was rare even for immortal emperors. How could it appear on an immortal venerable? It was not an illusion. His previous laughable deduction was completely wrong. Everything was real. This kid actually... I can't be fooled by this kid's endless tricks. No matter how many tricks he had up his sleeves, he was only an ancient immortal venerable. There was an insurmountable gap between an immortal venerable and an immortal king. And he, Bai Lu, was no ordinary celestial king. He was an existence who had cultivated to the pinnacle of the celestial king realm. Sooner or later, he would break through to become an immortal emperor. He had the pride of a peak-stage celestial king, so how could he suffer repeated defeats at the hands of mere outer cultivators? Ning Fan. This old man has cultivated for 74 million years. Among all the immortal venerables I have met, you are the best. Unfortunately, you must die today. You might have a lot of tricks up your sleeves, but I also have a lot of tricks up my sleeves. Today, I will let you witness what a peak stage celestial king really is. Before Taoist Bai Lu could finish his words, his expression suddenly changed. It was Ning Fan wielding the sea-defying sword in his hand. He directly controlled the sword with his spirit sense and slashed at him. He is actually using the sword controlling technique against such a heavy Dao soldier. Won't his spirit sense be broken by the weight? Moreover, the sea-defying sword that he was controlling was actually imbued with the power of 6 types of Dao laws. It actually caused the sword to leave a long trail of 6-colored light in the sky when it pierced through the air. 6 types of Dao laws. Moreover, they are all Dao laws that have been cultivated to an extremely high level and have come into contact with the sovereign realm. This time, no matter how proud Taoist Bai Lu was of his spiritual equipment and armor, he no longer dared to take the slash of the sea-defying sword head-on. While he was desperately retreating, trying to increase the distance between him and the sea-defying sword, he quickly opened his storage pouch and released hundreds of sword lights from it. All of them were acquired immortal swords that were above the 10th Nirvana realm. Among them, there were as many as 7 of them that were at the 12th Nirvana realm. Taoist Bai Lu even imbued all of his flying swords with the power of the Dao laws that he had comprehended for many years. Then he performed a hand seal and the flowing light from the hundreds of immortal swords merged together, turning into a gigantic sword diagram that was drawn by sword lights. The surface of the diagram was filled with Buddhas of various colors. As soon as the sword diagram was formed, it suddenly enveloped the sea-defying sword. The sword pressure between heaven and earth instantly turned into a violent gale, sweeping across the entire wasteland. Great Sealing Sword Restriction. Taoist Bai Lu shouted in a deep voice. This attack had almost used up all of his flying swords. It was a great ability that was specially created by the Sacred Mountain Buddhist sect to counter other swords with swords. The gigantic sword diagram blotted out the sky, releasing the power of sealing swords that was enough to seal all the slashes of the 12 Nirvana flying swords. However, this sword diagram of unfathomable power was directly cut in half by a single slash from the sea-defying sword. The sword diagram collapsed. Hundreds of broken flying swords fell from the sky along with the sword diagram. Even the 12 Nirvana flying swords were no exception. They were all reduced to nothingness by the 6-colored light of the sea-defying sword. The Great Sealing Sword Restriction unleashed by so many high-grade acquired immortal swords couldn't even block a single Dao soldier. The disciples of the 100 Flowers sect looked at the sea-defying sword with deep shock. Taoist Bai Lu was even more shocked and pained. In a battle between immortal sovereigns and immortal kings, an additional 12 Nirvana flying sword was enough to decide the outcome of the battle. However, he had actually lost 7 12 Nirvana flying swords in a single exchange. It was a disastrous loss. The power of a mere Dao soldier's slash, enhanced by 6 kinds of Dao laws, was actually so terrifying. Even his magic treasures had been destroyed in a single exchange. He definitely couldn't let his body be directly cut by this sword. He couldn't hold back any longer. White deer true body appear. Taoist Master Bai Lu's body flickered and transformed into a white deer with golden armor on its back in a flash of golden light. It was the image of his primordial true body. After transforming into the primordial true body, Taoist Bai Lu's cultivation rose from the peak of Immortal King to infinitely close to the Immortal Emperor level. The huge deer's horns glowed with golden light as it fearlessly rammed against the sea-defying sword. In the blink of an eye, the antlers and the sea-defying sword had exchanged over 100 blows. The primordial true body's antlers were one of Taoist Bai Lu's greatest trump cards. It was also the source of his great confidence. In the past, when fighting at the same level, he could usually decide the outcome with a single blow. However, the result now was that he was only evenly matched with the sea-defying sword. The power of this sword was even greater than he had expected. The 6-colored slash and the golden antlers continued to clash. Dazzling brilliance replaced all color in the wasteland. The huge aftershocks of the collision forced the disciples of the Hundred Flowers sect to retreat several hundred kilometers before they could barely withstand it. Taoist Bai Lu's heart sank. In that case, he could only use the primordial true body's strongest attack to decide the outcome of the battle. Really? Sumur Palm, 800 Arhat Sky Trampling Strike. The huge deer suddenly exploded with power and knocked the sea-defying sword back. Then, with a stomp of its 4 hooves, it leapt high into the sky. Its 4 hooves glowed with golden light as it used the Sumur Palm. All of its magic power was gathered on its 4 hooves. The enormous aura it gave off seemed as if it could even shatter the heavenly Tao if it wanted to. The huge deer's 4 hooves were filled with power. It kicked out wildly like a blur. In just a few breaths of time, it had kicked out 800 Sumuru palm imprints in a row. The attack of 800 golden palms descended from the sky like a torrential rain. It was like a miracle. The aura it emitted was enough to put up a fight against a 6th Tribulation Immortal Emperor. It was impossible to accurately control the trajectory of the palm imprints as they rained down. The range of the attack covered the entire wasteland. Even the disciples of the Hundred Flowers sect who had retreated several hundred kilometers were enveloped by the palm imprints. No, Lord Bai Lu has gone mad. He intends to kill all of us here. Run now. Stop. Lord Bai Lu, please stop. Cries of agony could be heard from the wasteland that was filled with smoke and dust. Just a casual Sumuru palm imprint from enlightened Master Bai Lu had the destructive power to destroy the physical body of a 4th Tribulation Immortal King. Now that 800 palm imprints were shot out at the same time, the disciples of the Hundred Flowers sect naturally had no chance of surviving. Not even their remains were left. They were directly turned into ashes by the descending palm imprints. Ning Fan's expression turned solemn. He kept the sea-defying sword. Facing the 800 consecutive attacks of enlightened Master Bai Lu's Sumuru palm imprint, even with his strong physical body, he did not dare to take it head-on. Enlightened Master Bai Lu was indeed very powerful. His title as a peak immortal king was not in vain. Among the immortal kings, there were definitely not many who could survive under his 800 palm imprints. Among the immortal venerables, there was no one who could resist the attack that was like a natural disaster. Unfortunately, Ning Fan was an exception among the ancient immortal venerables. It was true that enlightened Master Bai Lu's attack was very strong. It was even comparable to the abilities of some 6th Tribulation Immortal Emperors. However, it was useless. If his physical body was insufficient, Ning Fan still had the God-destroying shield. Even a true immortal emperor like the Sea Devil could not completely break through the defense of the God-destroying shield. Enlightened Master Bai Lu was even less capable. Smoke and dust filled the sky. Among the smoke and dust, there were many huge palm craters on the 1,000 li of the wasteland. Countless mountains, rivers, grass and trees were turned into ashes. Similarly, the people of the Hundred Flowers Peak who came with enlightened Master Bai Lu were also turned into ashes. Looking at the smoke and dust that filled the sky below, enlightened Master Bai Lu panted heavily and smiled with satisfaction. This time, this brat is definitely dead. To go against this old man, this is... Before he could finish his words, enlightened Master Bai Lu's beast eyes suddenly trembled. After the smoke and dust on the ground below dispersed, a giant armored man whose body was burning with golden flames appeared at the center of the ruins. As for Ning Fan, he was completely unscathed as he hid inside the body of the golden flame giant. He was completely unscathed. He was actually unscathed. He had even used the 800 Arhat Sky Stomping Strike. Almost 70% of his magic power had been consumed by this attack. However, such a powerful attack did not even leave a scratch on the corner of Ning Fan's robes. Impossible. He would never believe this. You aren't an immortal emperor. How can you remain unscathed after receiving my 800 palm imprints? Why? I have cultivated for 74 million years. I have seen countless peerless experts, but I have never seen a freak like you. You are obviously just an external cultivator and an immortal venerable. How can you be so strong? I can't accept this. The giant deer opened its mouth and golden light gathered in it. Then, it suddenly roared like a cannonball. A golden light cannon fell from the sky with destructive power. It was the effect of the lion roar of the Buddhist sect. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with ruthlessness. He also controlled the god-destroying giant to roar. As it roared, a scarlet barbaric flash shot towards the sky and collided with the golden light cannon of the giant deer. Both of them were evenly matched. I don't believe that I can't kill you today. I borrowed a treasure from his honor. Initially, I didn't plan to use it. But now, it seems like I have no choice but to use it. This is the supreme treasure left behind by the former master of the 100 Flowers Peak, enlightened Master Gu Hua. Each of the 11 grades of the Flower Sovereign contains the profound principles of formations. If I use this treasure, you will certainly die today. The giant deer opened its mouth and shot out 11 rays of light. The rays of light descended from the sky, and each of them turned into flowers that carried the chi of emperors. Each of them was a carefree orchid of extremely high quality. Each of them had the soul of a woman sleeping in it. Each of the 11 carefree orchids took a direction and aligned with the general momentum. As soon as the formation was formed, it trapped Ning Fan's god-destroying giant in the middle. Then, a brilliant light shone and a fatal formation diagram appeared beneath Ning Fan's feet. My flower blooms. As the giant deer shouted, hundreds of billions of orchid petals were transformed by the formation power and fell from the sky. 100 flower kill. Each of the orchid petals turned into sharp fragments of swords and blades. They rolled up a tornado-like sword storm that trapped the god-destroying giant within the storm. Under the attacks of hundreds of billions of slashes, the golden flames on the surface of the god-destroying giant's body began to flicker despite its strong defense. It was an innate grade-killing formation magic treasure. It was the magic treasure that enlightened Master Gu Hua relied on to dominate the world. From enlightened Master Bai Lu's point of view, a first-grade innate magic treasure was already the strongest technique in the world. If a formation master like him uses this treasure, its power would definitely be above the 800 Arhat sky-stomping strike. It was enough to kill Ning Fan. Unfortunately, the greater the expectation, the greater the disappointment. If it was other types of innate magic treasures, Ning Fan might have to spend some effort to deal with them. However, if it was a killing formation type innate magic treasure, he could use the secret of the word force to counter it. As soon as the god-destroying giant stomped on the ground, the killing formation diagram on the ground immediately cracked with countless golden flames. Then, the entire formation diagram was burnt to a crisp by the golden flames that kept bursting out from the cracks. A mighty storm of swords had actually been extinguished with such ease. How is this possible? Enlightened Master Bai Lu almost roared. The innate magic treasure that he regarded as his greatest reliance was actually, it was destroyed by Ning Fan's god-destroying giant with just a simple stomp. As far as I know, the first master of the 100 Flowers Peak, enlightened Master Gu Hua, died because he failed to break through the 7th cataclysm. I once obtained the memory crystal of enlightened Master Gu Hua's failure in the 100 Flowers treasure vault. That's why I know about this. In your eyes, this treasure might be a perfect and flawless innate magic treasure. However, it's actually not a complete treasure. If it's complete, it should be a 12-grade flower king. Now, it's missing one flower. The one that's missing should be Ling Air. The Tao of formations is all about accuracy and precision. Any missing detail will cause a flaw in the grand formation, let alone the fact that one of the 12-grade flower kings is missing. Such a huge flaw can't escape my eyes. Of course, it's not difficult to break this formation. Of course, if enlightened Master Gu Hua refined a complete treasure, even I would have to spend a lot of effort to break this formation. Originally, Ning Fan was too lazy to talk nonsense with enlightened Master Gu Hua. However, when he saw the treasure that enlightened Master Gu Hua left behind in the mortal world, he could not help but recall all kinds of memories related to Su Qiuling. He did not explain it to enlightened Master Bai Lu. Instead, he explained it to the souls of the women who were in a deep sleep inside the 11 Flower Kings. The souls of these flowers should be connected to enlightened Master Gu Hua's life. If enlightened Master Gu Hua dies, the souls of these flowers will die as well. Enlightened Master Gu Hua nurtured the flowers with his love and loved them with his life. I'm afraid that enlightened Master Gu Hua is the most infatuated with the flowers throughout the ages. The reason why these flower souls did not perish together with enlightened Master Gu Hua is just that someone used a divine ability to forcefully stop the death of the flower souls. However, these flower souls have already died together with enlightened Master Gu Hua. They just want to die. I can sense a little of this kind of will to sacrifice themselves. The god-exterminating giant suddenly summoned the ocean-defying gigantic sword and slashed at each of the 11 flower kings. The slash was precise and precise. It did not damage the 11 flower kings at all. However, it cleverly broke the restrictions that restricted the death of the flower souls. All of a sudden, each of the flower souls who wanted to die were freed. The graceful women of the flower souls floated out of their respective flower king worryless orchids. They bowed to Ning Fan as if they were thanking him. Then, with longing and deep love, their souls dispersed from the world one after another. They died and went to follow their master and lover, enlightened Master Gu Hua. As soon as the flower souls dispersed, the 11 gigantic worryless orchids began to wither. However, as Ning Fan displayed his divine ability, the withering trend disappeared. Then, Ning Fan kept all the 11 flower king worryless orchids. The reason why he helped the souls of the women of the flower souls to vanish and fulfill their wishes was because the reason why he took away these flower king worryless orchids that had lost their flower souls was because he had helped them fulfill their wishes. In Su Qiuling's previous life, in order to help a weak butterfly like him fly to the ancient heavenly court, she had lost her destined golden qi forever. Even though Ning Fan had cured Su Qiuling's illness in the Endless Sea, it was still very difficult for him to truly help Su Qiuling regain the amount of destined golden qi she had in her previous life. However, things were different now that he had 11 flower king-grade worryless orchids. They were flowers of the same species as Su Qiuling and they were both flower kings. Even though the soul of the flower was already dead, there was still a lot of destined golden qi in the flower. If he takes it and feeds it to Su Qiuling, it would most likely be able to replenish her lost destined golden qi. What I owe in my previous life should be repaid in this life. Ning Fan smiled faintly and muttered to himself. All of his gestures completely ignored Reverend Bai Lu, who was high up in the sky. What have you done? You actually released those flower souls. How dare you destroy this innate magic treasure? You deserve to die. Reverend Bai Lu shouted furiously. I'm already tired of it. Originally, I just wanted to use you to test my strength after the first revolution. It seems like you've already used up all your trump cards. In that case, there's no point in continuing to test you. The god-destroying giant suddenly put away the ocean-defying sword. What appeared in the palm of the giant was a small sapling that was emitting 7-colored rays of light. The 7-colored sapling grew with the wind in the giant's palm. When it reached the size of a giant sword, it stopped growing. Then, holding the 7-colored sapling in his right hand, the giant leaped into the sky and instantly appeared in front of Reverend Bai Lu. Without saying a word, he swung the tree. What happened next made Reverend Bai Lu's soul leave his body. His antlers, which were as tall as the 6-colored sea-defying sword, were actually broken by this ordinary-looking rainbow tree. Fresh blood instantly gushed out from the broken antlers. Nice antler. I'll keep it. Next, it's your eternal true body. The 7-colored tree swung again. Reverend Bai Lu's eternal true body was directly cut in half from the middle. Blood splattered across the sky. Reverend Bai Lu's eternal true body was beaten to an unprecedented level. With the help of a spurt of blood, he escaped from the corpse of the giant deer. His expression was the most shocked he had ever been in his life. What is that tree? The power of a single swish actually has the terrifying power to break all techniques. Could it be? It's one of the legendary treasured trees of the Buddha clan. The 7 Treasures Wondrous Tree. A mere external cultivator actually has such a heaven-defying item? Reverend Bai Lu gasped. There's no mistake. The strange seven-colored tree that Ning Fan used is definitely the Seven Treasures Wondrous Tree of the Buddha clan. The sapling of the Wondrous Tree of Seven Treasures was extremely rare. Even a Buddha cultivator like him could not obtain one even after searching for it for his entire life. However, Ning Fan actually had it. Moreover, it seemed that the Tree of Seven Wonders had been cultivated to an extremely powerful level. The 1,000 zhang tall Wondrous Tree of Seven Treasures can be used as a connate magical treasure, and it is an invincible existence among connate low-grade treasures. This kid's Tree of Seven Wonder Treasures shouldn't have reached 10,000 feet. Otherwise, with that brush just now, even my primordial spirit would have been annihilated. It would have been impossible for me to escape. Not 10,000 feet. However, it's definitely close to 1,000 feet. This tree hasn't reached the innate level, but due to its powerful divine power, it's already more powerful than many weaker innate magical treasures. With this tree in his hands, I'm not his match. It's definitely not a wise move to fight again. He couldn't break Ning Fan's defense. He could not withstand the attacks of Ning Fan's treasured tree. There was no way to continue this fight. Only a temporary retreat was the correct choice. Taoist Master Bai Lu, who was on the verge of death, was about to flee with his golden rainbow. However, he was stopped in midair by Ning Fan's finger. Given Ning Fan's cultivation base, he should have suffered some backlash if he tried to stop Taoist Master Bai Lu. Unfortunately, be it Ning Fan's primordial spirit or physical body, both of them were far stronger than the immortal venerable realm. Even if the backlash comes, the damage to his body would be negligible. He gritted his teeth and increased the power of his heaven-sealing technique, as if he didn't care about the backlash at all. Originally, he could only stop Taoist Master Bai Lu for a moment with his current cultivation base. Now, however, he managed to stop him for more than one breath. When Taoist Master Bai Lu's traveling light was frozen, he knew that he was in trouble. As expected, the moment he was frozen, the huge shadow of the god-destroying giant had already shrouded the top of his head. A seven-colored ray of light flashed and another brush was made. As a result, Taoist Master Bai Lu's physical body exploded. Only his primordial spirit, which had half a golden color, rushed out of his corpse with a horrified expression while holding a storage pouch in his arms, escaping death. The primordial spirit of an immortal emperor was known for being difficult to kill. Even though Taoist Master Bai Lu had yet to advance to the immortal emperor realm, half of his primordial spirit had already turned golden. If it wasn't for that, Ning Fan's brush would probably take his life. He's actually not dead yet. A peak immortal king is indeed hard to kill. So, another unreasonable finger attack froze Taoist Master Bai Lu's primordial spirit in midair. After it stabilized, another brush was made. I'll stop after I finish. I'll continue after I finish. The remaining half of Taoist Master Bai Lu's primordial spirit, which had yet to turn golden, had already turned into ashes under Ning Fan's unreasonable attacks. The remaining half of his primordial spirit was indeed hard to kill. The Tree of Seven Wonders had brushed Taoist Master Bai Lu's primordial spirit for more than 100 times, but it only managed to slightly injure that half of his primordial spirit. However, it was still able to injure it. That's good enough. If I can't brush it 100 times, I'll brush it 1,000 times or even 10,000 times. Ning Fan refused to believe that he wouldn't be able to destroy Taoist Master Bai Lu's golden primordial spirit today. On the other side, the remaining half of Taoist Master Bai Lu's primordial spirit had already turned pale with fright. With the heaven-sealing technique that was almost unsolvable, there was no way he could escape from Ning Fan's evil palm. No matter how durable his golden primordial spirit was, it would die sooner or later under the continuous attacks of the Tree of Seven Wonders. He was unwilling to admit it, but he had no choice but to admit that he had been utterly defeated by Ning Fan today. He could not even escape from Ning Fan's hands. Ning Fan, I advise you not to go too far. If you kill me, 100 Flowers Peak will absolutely not let you off. The sacred mountain won't let you off. What do I have to do for you to let me go? Let me go. As long as you let me live, I'll do anything you want me to do. I can help you deal with that bitch 100 flowers. You hate her a lot, right? After all, when your Xing ring was destroyed, she was the first to act against you as an ally. She really is ungrateful. Actually, I hate her very much as well, and I want to deal with her as well. We can join hands to bathe 100 flowers peak in blood. I'll be your servant, okay? I'll let you plant the enslavement seal on him, right? So long as you let me go, you'll be able to obtain a subordinate at the peak of the Celestial King stage. It's absolutely a deal that's sure to be profitable. Ning Fan. Actually, I still have one last trump card that I haven't used, and it's my greatest trump card when I become an emperor in the future. That's why I'm unwilling to use it, but it's not because I'm afraid of you. If you continue to force me, I will use this method to completely eliminate you. Alright. Very good. Ning Fan. Thief Ning. Ning bastard. You're the one who forced me to do this. Since you want me to die, I'll let you die first. If I don't become an emperor, I'll turn you into ashes. The expression on the small face of Taoist Bai Lu's primordial spirit gradually turned ruthless. Then, he suddenly chanted an incantation. Almost at the same time, in the originally empty sky, a spatial crack appeared without any warning. It was not the spatial crack that led to the forbidden area of the Sea Valley. Instead, it was the spatial crack of the world treasure that Taoist Bai Lu had created himself. Was it a medium-sized world? A medium-sized world treasure was something that only immortal emperors were qualified to possess. Of course, it was not strange for the direct disciples of immortal emperors or those peak immortal kings who were about to become emperors to possess it. At this moment, the medium-sized world that Taoist Bai Lu had created was inhabited by countless mortals and cultivators. There were millions of mortal countries and cultivation countries built within it. All the countries only believed in one religion, the White Deer sect. All the residents only worshipped one person, their god, Taoist Bai Lu. This is my Joss Flame world. It contains all the Joss flames that I have accumulated for 74 million years of cultivation. I was planning to use these Joss flames when I break through to the 9-5 tribulation of the immortal emperor realm. However, it seems like I won't have that chance anymore. Ning Fan. I'm going to use all the Joss flames that my disciples have accumulated for 74 million years to kill you. You can die contentedly under this item. Joss Flame Sword. As Taoist Bai Lu roared in a frenzy, a terrifying amount of white Joss flames flew out from his Joss Flame world and condensed into a 3-chi long white sword in midair. Joss Flame Sword. This sword finally gave Ning Fan a sense of danger. With a flick of the sword, it suddenly pierced towards the god-destroying giant. Then, the golden flames on the giant's body began to be cut apart by the Joss Flame Sword. Ha! I've finally broken your turtle shell. Taoist Bai Lu laughed complacently. White light and golden light began to collide with each other in the sky. The collision seemed to last for a long time, but in fact, it only took a few breaths to determine the victor. In the end, the god-destroying giant's defense was broken by the Joss Flame Sword. Ning Fan's chest was pierced 2-chi deep by the Joss Flame Sword. Blood kept flowing out from the wound. Unfortunately, the Joss Flame Sword could no longer go any further. This 2-chi deep wound was its limit. If the power of the Joss Flame Sword could be doubled, it might be able to pierce through Ning Fan's heart. What disappointed Taoist Bai Lu was that the Joss Flame Sword's energy was exhausted on the verge of success. With a loud bang, it collapsed. Then, Ning Fan's wound recovered in just a few breaths under his powerful physical recovery ability. Not even a scar was left on his body. Only the damage on his white robe proved that the sword had indeed left a mark on him. You're not bad. Your fangs have finally touched the corner of my robe. Throughout my journey, you're the first person below the immortal emperor realm who could break the god-destroying giant's defense. Then, you can die with this glory. Swoosh! Taoist Bai Lu, who no longer had any tricks up his sleeves, gritted his teeth and chose to self-detonate after being continuously attacked by Ning Fan. However, even the self-detonation of his primordial spirit could not hurt Ning Fan at all. In terms of destructive power, it was even weaker than the Joss Flame Sword. Ning Fan had already expected such a self-detonation, but the god-destroying giant was able to withstand it without suffering any damage. After Taoist Bai Lu's primordial spirit self-detonated, Ning Fan wore a mocking smile on his face. He covered the god-destroying giant's fist with great golden flames and punched through hundreds of layers of the void. Below the void was a strand of golden primordial spirit that had escaped to this place. The moment it saw Ning Fan breaking through the void, it felt the greatest fear it had ever felt in its life. How did you know? Bang! Another punch. The god-destroying giant directly destroyed the strand of primordial spirit that had escaped. Then Ning Fan did the same thing. He caught a total of 800 strands of primordial spirit from the surrounding void and destroyed them one by one. After that, Ning Fan could finally be considered to have truly eliminated Taoist Bai Lu. With my sharp senses towards the general situation, how could I not know that when you released the 800 palm imprints just now, you secretly sent a strand of your primordial spirit into each of your palm imprints? It could be used for sneak attacks or to escape when necessary. Bai Lu, right? He's indeed a very difficult opponent. The current me can finally kill a peak immortal king realm being. Sure enough, the 63,000 years of arduous cultivation wasn't in vain. After the first revolution of yin-yang transformation, my strength is no longer the same as before. Of course, the power of the Tree of Seven Wonders that has grown to 970 zhang really surprised me. If it grows to 1,000 zhang, it would officially advance to the low-grade innate realm. How strong would it be then? If it grows to 2,000 zhang, Ning Fan suppressed the baleful qi and blood flames that increased after killing Bai Lu and smiled faintly. With such strength, it would no longer be a reckless act to save Sovereign Tuesday. Instead, he would have something to rely on. Almost at the same time when Bai Lu's primordial spirit was completely destroyed, Grand Emperor Hundred Flowers, who was in seclusion to recuperate in seclusion on the Hundred Flowers Peak, felt a sudden urge for some reason. Moreover, this sudden urge actually happened to her. It was a warning for her that a great calamity was about to befall her. Strange. Wasn't the master of the blood weapon who tried to kill her captured by the Light Buddha? Why would she still feel that a great calamity of life and death is about to befall her? Did something happen in the outside world that I don't know about? Speaking of which, other than a rascal who killed the chess pieces that she had placed in the Sea Witch tribe, nothing major had happened recently. That kind of rascal who hid his head but showed his tail was obviously not qualified to pose a threat to her life. Where exactly did the great calamity of life and death come from? Report. Something bad has happened to her honor. Her life plate, her life plate. Suddenly, a maidservant rushed into the Hundred Flowers Emperor's resting palace. Instantly, the Hundred Flowers Emperor's pretty face turned cold. She had clearly ordered that no one was allowed to step into her resting palace unless she took the initiative to summon them. However, this maidservant actually disobeyed her order. Could it be that she was tired of living? The Hundred Flowers Emperor slightly raised her primordial spirit finger, as if she was going to point it at the maidservant to punish her. Upon seeing that, the maidservant's face turned pale with fright. However, she still gritted her teeth and knelt on the ground to report. Please forgive me, Your Honor. If it wasn't for the fact that something major had happened, this servant would not dare to disturb Your Honor's recuperation no matter what. The life tablets of the 4th and 5th Peak Masters were shattered. At the same time, the disciples who went to the Sea Witch tribe with them were also shattered. Lord Bai Lu's life tablet was also shattered. What? Even Bai Lu. He wasn't some incompetent person. Even if the immortal emperor wanted to kill him, he would at least be able to escape with his primordial spirit. However, his life tablet had actually shattered. Didn't that mean that he wouldn't even be able to escape? Who did it? Could it be that my great calamity of life and death will be confirmed here? The Hundred Flowers Emperor's beautiful face finally paled. Someone who could make Bai Lu unable to even escape, killing the current her wouldn't be too difficult. After all, her physical body had been destroyed by the master of the blood martial weapon, and her injuries were many times more severe than before. Moreover, her cultivation was even slightly unable to display the strength of a peak immortal king. Chapter 1069. Enlightened being Bailu was regarded by many as the next successor of the 5 emperors of the central province. He was highly respected in the Debay tribe. His death would, of course, cause a storm in the Debay tribe. Unfortunately, Ning Fan did not care about the impact of killing Bailu. The white deer had traveled thousands of miles to kill him, so it was only natural that he would kill the white deer instead. Even if he knew that this matter would put him in the limelight again, there was no way he would hold back. The storage pouches of the other 100 Flowers sect disciples had all been reduced to dust by Taoist Master Bailu's 800 palm strikes. As a result, the only spoils of war from this battle was Taoist Master Bailu's storage pouch. Of course, there was also a pair of shiny golden antlers, which were cut from Taoist Master Bailu's eternal true body. In terms of hardness, this pair of antlers could clash hundreds of times with the sea-defying sword, which was entwined with 6 types of Tao laws. It was definitely an excellent material for refining magic treasures. In terms of nutrition, this pair of antlers contained the purest deer blood in Taoist Master Bailu's body. After consuming it, it would be extremely beneficial for body cultivation. Ning Fan directly drank the deer blood from the antlers. His strong physical body completely ignored the massive energy contained in the blood. After forcibly refining the blood, his ancient devil cultivation base improved significantly. After that, he casually kept the pair of dried antlers into his storage pouch. In the short term, he had no plans to refine a magic treasure, but if he really wanted to refine a magic treasure one day, this pair of antlers could be of use. As for Taoist Master Bailu's storage bag, in terms of magic treasures, apart from a few 12 Nirvana magic treasures of good quality, there was nothing else worthy of attention. As for medicinal pills, there were 20 to 30 bottles of 9 revolution pills. There were lead pills, silver pills, and gold pills. Most of them were healing and detoxification pills. The pills that could increase one's cultivation base had long been refined by enlightened Bailu. There was also an imperial pill, but there was only one, and it was carefully sealed in a jade box. Ning Fan opened the jade box and carefully studied the only sovereign pill inside. In his mind, he compared the different types of pills of the Debay clan. Eventually, Ning Fan decided on the name of the pill. Gold Emperor Ascension Pill. This was a medicinal pill that could increase a cultivator's chances of advancing to Martial Emperor. When breaking through the 9-5 tribulation, it could increase the chances of success by 50%. This was a very precious pill. It was most likely something that Taoist Master Bailu had obtained in order to become an emperor in the future. Elixirs of this level were extremely precious even in Debay. In the 4 heavens and 9 worlds, where there was a lack of emperor pill refiners, they were even rarer. Becoming of the Arch is still too far away for me. This pill is useless to me now. I'll just keep it for now. Ning Fan looked through the jade slips in Taoist Bailu's storage pouch. Many of these jade slips contain the unique 9-fold transformation pill formula of the abyssal race, which would be of some help to the immemorial realm. In addition, some of the jade slips even recorded the various divine abilities and secret techniques that Taoist Master Bailu had learned throughout his life. The Battle Soul technique and Soul Fusion technique that were related to medicine souls, as well as the experiences of some pill refinement masters in using their medicine souls, were of some help to Ning Fan. Other than that, Ning Fan was not interested in most of Taoist Bailu's abilities and secret arts. It was not that he looked down on all of them. He was very interested in the 800 Arhat Sky Stomping Strike that Taoist Bailu used in the last few moves. The Sumeru Palm imprint was one of the secret arts of the Sacred Mountain. A single palm strike already possessed unfathomable power. The 800 consecutive strikes were even more powerful enough to destroy heaven and earth. Ning Fan did not have the intention to learn the Sumeru Palm imprint. Even though this technique was powerful, it was a type of divine ability of the Buddha sect. The various dharma that it contained was completely different from the Tao of ancient devils that Ning Fan cultivated. If he uses this technique with the identity of an ancient devil, he would at most be able to display 10 to 20% of its power. It would certainly not reach the terrifying destructive power of Taoist Bailu. Ning Fan would not learn it. However, he could still use it as a reference. If Ning Fan learns the essence of the 800 consecutive strikes and applies it to his ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike, it would also be a powerful killing move if he were to give the enemy an 800 ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike. Speaking of which, my body technique did not follow any of the sects in the cultivation world. After cultivating for so long, I already have the qualifications to create my own body technique sect. The Tao of ancient devils lies in the word destruction. I can start from this essence and create my own body technique sect. Ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike, 800 ancient Devil's Mountain breaking strike, Devil Palm technique, Devil Fist technique, 18 types of devil weapon techniques. There are many directions for me to research on. Eventually, Ning Fan's eyes fell on a jade thumb ring in his storage pouch. It was a medium Kiliacosm treasure. It was the place where Taoist Bai Lu kept his 60 billion disciples. Since Bai Lu was already dead, he could take over all of them. Even though the speed of the accumulation of incense was very slow, what if the number of disciples Ning Fan had was tens of thousands of times more than Taoist Bai Lu? He would probably only need a few hundred years to gather enough incense to break his god extermination defense. Given the power of that incense sword that could even cut open the god extermination giant, there were probably not many immortal emperors who could withstand it. Of course, it was not an easy task to have such a large number of incense disciples. At Taoist Bai Lu's level, he would usually open up his own incense world to reproduce his disciples. However, the resources of the medium Kiliacosm that he opened up were limited after all. The limit of the population would vary depending on the size of the incense world. Taoist Bai Lu's incense ring could only support 60 billion people. However, if Ning Fan tries to expand this world, the number of people that he could support would increase even more. Ning Fan wore the incense ring on the ring finger of his left hand. He activated his ability and the ring disappeared into his flesh. His expression became slightly absent-minded. The last time he wore this ring seemed to be Bei Xiaoman's primordial Yao Jade. Bei Xiaoman, that unruly and willful little girl, should have broken through to the void refinement realm after all these years. She might even be at the void fragmentation realm already. Her innate potential is still pretty good. Ning Fan laughed and shook his head. After tidying up the spoils of war from killing Bai Lu, he reopened the spatial zone of the forbidden area of the Sea Valley and went all the way to the sacrificial altar in the depths of the forbidden area. Previously, the Sea Devil mentioned the matter of the crippled divine spirit body and said that he had something to tell him later. Ning Fan was still very concerned about this matter. He privately called it the first revolution evolution of the yin-yang transformation. However, the true name of this kind of evolution might be the crippled divine spirit body that the Sea Devil mentioned. The Sea Devil still maintained his human form and stood beside the silver cauldron at the center of the sacrificial altar, waiting for Ning Fan's arrival. However, when Ning Fan finally arrived, the Sea Devil was still slightly surprised. What surprised him was that Ning Fan had returned a little too quickly. He expected that the current Ning Fan would have the strength to deal with enlightened being Bai Lu. However, he did not expect that Ning Fan would complete the magnificent feat of killing a peak immortal king in less than 4 hours. His strength is far beyond cultivators at the same level as you. You are indeed a divine spirit. The Sea Devil displayed his ability and made all the prisoners in the 11 blood balls faint. Only then did he exclaim with a sigh, as if the matter was of great importance and he did not want others to overhear it. What exactly is the crippled divine spirit body that Senior mentioned? Ning Fan did not beat around the bush and directly asked the question in his mind. The Sea Devil, however, just shook his head. With a grasp of his large hand, he condensed the few memories that he had after turning into a corpse devil into a jade slip and gave it to Ning Fan. Ning Fan pondered for a while. Eventually, he still went into the jade slip with his spirit sense. The memories that the Sea Devil could carve into the jade slip were very, very few. He died in the immemorial era. In terms of age, he was an existence that was even older than the ancient Chaos Great Emperor. Because of that, he was qualified to know many secrets that even the ancient Chaos Great Emperor might not know about. Unfortunately, since he had turned into a corpse devil after his death, He only had some extremely fragmented memories about his previous life. As soon as Ning Fan's spirit sense entered the jade slip, fragmented images flooded into his mind like tidal waves. One of the images was of a little girl with dragon horns playing with a small octopus at the seaside. The second image was of a slim and graceful young girl riding a giant octopus out into the sea to fight against some divine golden armored beings. The third image was of the octopus turning into an ocean general. It listened to the young girl's orders in a dragon palace and headed to another sea region to guard it. The fourth image was of the young girl who was already dead. The dragon palace had been destroyed and the octopus had also died. That young girl looked quite similar to Wu Na when she grew up. She was the octopus's master. Now that Ning Fan had some understanding about reincarnation, he could vaguely tell that the octopus was the sea devil's previous identity while he was still alive. As for the young girl with dragon horns who lived in the dragon palace, she was Wu Na's previous incarnation. Is this the reason why you call Wu Na your master? Is it also because of her that you came forward to stop by Lu and the others for me? Ning Fan sighed with emotion and asked. The sea devil did not say anything. He just nodded his head. You are really loyal to your master. I didn't expect that the little girl Wu Na actually had dragon horns in her previous life. Was she a demon cultivator of the true dragon clan in her previous life? The sea devil shook his head and showed a hint of disdain towards the so-called true dragon clan. What do these fragments of memories have to do with the deformed body of a deity that you mentioned? Keep watching. The sea devil answered with a hoarse voice. Ning Fan sent his spirit sense into the jade slip again. More fragmented images were imprinted in his mind. All of them were fragmented images. The logic of time was also not chaotic, making it difficult for Ning Fan to understand what was recorded in these fragmented memories. He could only understand some information from between the lines of some of the images. I am the eldest princess of the South Sea Dragon Palace. You are my servant. You should. The calamity of the South Sea has arrived. My father and a few of my royal brothers have already died in battle. I can't go. Little octopus, you should go alone. You cultivators, why did you betray the deities of my ancient country? You are an immemorial spirit-devouring bee. Stop. Don't kill my little octopus. He still could not obtain too much information. However, Ning Fan managed to hear many words related to the great secrets of heaven and earth from these fragments of memories. The princess of the South Sea Dragon Palace, the deities of the ancient country, immemorial spirit-devouring bee. After Ning Fan browsed through all the fragments of memories, the sea devil finally spoke again. The era of deities has ended. The one of the true world has no deities, ancient demons, ancient devils as well as many een-faced cultivators are imitating the deities. However, they can only imitate a part of them, the outstanding ones, or the deformed bodies of the deities. Above the deformed bodies are the post-celestial deities. Above the post-celestial deities are the innate deities. They have a special cultivation method, the only deformed body of the deities in this world, but it's incomplete. Do you understand now? Ning Fan felt a headache. He felt that it was very strenuous to listen to the sea devil's words. However, he still managed to understand its meaning. In other words, there was an era of deities before the three great true worlds. After the era of deities ended and the era of the true world entered, there were still many cultivators who tried to cultivate the path of the ancient deities. Ancient deities, ancient demons, ancient devils, ancient barbarians and other een-faced cultivators were disdained by the laws of heaven and earth because they imitated the power of the ancient deities. As for him, due to the uniqueness of his yin-yang transformation cultivation method and the fact that he cultivated 4 bloodlines at the same time, he managed to cultivate the deformed body of the deities for some unknown reason and officially stepped onto the path of cultivation of the ancient deities. However, according to the sea devil, his deformed body was still a complete deformed body. It still seemed to be incomplete. If the deformed body of the deformed body of the deformed body of the deities, they would become the post-celestial deities and then the innate deities, from Ning Fan's point of view, the three stages of the deformed body of the deities, the post-celestial deities and the innate deities were the first revolution, second revolution and third revolution of the yin-yang transformation. Could it be that great Emperor Ancient Chaos created the yin-yang transformation and the chaotic loop arts and was said to have thrown an ancient era into chaos because of this cultivation method? If this cultivation method is truly cultivated, it would allow cultivators to become ancient deities? It seems like great Emperor Ancient Chaos did not manage to cultivate this divine spirit body, but I actually managed to cultivate it. That day, the Ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor gave me the Jieshue seed. If not for that, I would not have the chance to cultivate to my current Jieshue cultivation. Perhaps, the Ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor is trying to make my divine spirit crippled body appear. Ning Fan secretly guessed. Awesome. The benefit to, this is the 7th cauldron out of the 9 cauldrons of the great humble southern alchemy saint. Its name is Spirit Refinement. Others can only use this cauldron to refine pills. As for immortal spirits, I refine my god. Sea Demon raised his hand and patted the smelting god cauldron. The cauldron immediately lit up, and lines of ancient words appeared on the cauldron. It was a language that even the sea demons did not understand. Only the ancient divine spirits could understand the words of the divine spirits with their bloodline power. It was obvious that Ning Fan did not understand those words. However, the current him could somehow understand the meaning of those words. It was really strange. 9 in verse 21 Withering Divine Cauldrons. Ning Fan stared at the words and read them aloud. The name that he read was the true name of this cauldron. At the moment he called out the true name of the cauldron suddenly gave him a gentle will, showing him a sense of intimacy. After waiting for countless years, this cauldron finally had an ancient divine spirit who could call out its true name. Sea Demon's face was filled with excitement. He could no longer remember the details of his death in the past. He only vaguely remembered that he died in the South Sea Rebellion. Moreover, he was stabbed to death by a terrifying existence with a black stick. That black stick was the ability of some kind of ancient divine spirit. Only someone who was also an ancient divine spirit could remove it. This black stick was the culprit that made him wish that he was dead. In order to remove the black stick, he even made a deal with the 100 Flowers Emperor. Unfortunately, the other party did not have the ability to remove the black stick. Today, however, he finally saw a glimmer of hope from Ning Fan. This cauldron is a treasure of the South Sea Dragon Palace. It can refine blood, cultivate spirit. Try activating this cauldron. Ning Fan nodded his head. He memorized the incantation recorded on the cauldron and chanted it. All of a sudden, the countless tadpole-like runes on the body of the silver cauldron began to glow and swim. Something strange happened. It was the bodies of the 11 prisoners who were trapped in the blood balls in midair. Each of them was dried up as if their flesh and blood essence had been sucked dry by the blood balls. Even the primordial spirit of the immortal emperor in the first blood ball only lasted for a dozen breaths in the blood ball before dying tragically. All the essence of his primordial spirit was sucked dry by the blood ball. All 11 prisoners had died. After all, these people were the scourges of the sea shaman tribe in the past. Thus, Ning Fan did not feel any pity for them. What surprised him was that the flesh and blood essence of the 11 prisoners were all sucked into the divine refining cauldron. At a speed visible to the naked eye, the blood essence condensed into blood-red pills that were covered with silver patterns inside the cauldron. When the pills were condensed, there were about 300 blood pills in the cauldron. This pill is called 10,000 spirit blood. It will only bring harm and no benefit to non-divine beings. As for you, you can eat it. The Sea Devil signaled Ning Fan to consume these blood pills. However, Ning Fan did not consume the pills immediately. Instead, he took one of the pills and examined it carefully on his palm. Then he frowned slightly. This divine refining cauldron was a half-destroyed item. Previously, he had already noticed that the main function of this cauldron was not to attack or defend or concoct pills. However, he did not expect that its real function was to refine the flesh and blood of humans into pills. Are the so-called ancient divine beings such a cruel race that they treat humans as their food? Is this the reason why the era of divine beings was ended by the rebellion? Of course, Ning Fan, who was already used to devouring the primordial spirits of cultivators, had no right to criticize the cruelty of the ancient divine beings. It was also impossible for him to consider himself as a kind person. He was different from those kind-hearted people who slaughtered livestock and ate their meat while calling for equality for all living beings. He was originally an evil person. If he refined the flesh and blood of innocent people into pills, perhaps Ning Fan would hesitate. However, since it was a pill refined from the flesh and blood of a group of scourges, there was nothing wrong with it. It did not deviate from his Tao heart. Divine Spirit, you have not awakened. Divine Spirit, innate talent. Different divine beings have different innate talents. If your innate talent awakens 10%, you can condense divine power to help me remove the black stick. The blood of 10,000 spirits is necessary for the cultivation of divine beings. This cauldron is half destroyed. Its grade is also low. It can be used to refine low-grade blood of 10,000 spirits. While listening to the Sea Devil's explanation, Ning Fan was enlightened. It seems like those who have truly cultivated the divine spirit body can still awaken their own innate talent. I haven't awakened it yet. Can I awaken some kind of ability after consuming these blood pills? After checking that the pills were fine, Ning Fan finally consumed the pill in his hand, which was called the blood of 10,000 spirits, and swallowed it into his stomach. A massive heat flow immediately spread throughout his body. The medicinal power of a blood pill was almost comparable to a 9 revolutions golden pill. Ning Fan refined the medicinal power in his body. He could vaguely feel that something seemed to have changed inside his body. He wanted to examine it carefully, but he could not find any trace of it. The toughness of his physical body, sea of consciousness and primordial spirits, seemed to have been slightly improved by the medicinal power. Of course, since he already had a high foundation in all aspects, the improvement was not particularly obvious. After refining one blood pill, Ning Fan began to refine the next one. 1 day passed. 2 days passed. On the 3rd day, the awakening process finally stopped. At this moment, Ning Fan's body was emitting the golden light of an ancient divine being. Gradually, the golden light began to subside. Ning Fan exhaled a mouthful of murky qi and slowly rose to his feet. With the strength of his physical body now, there was no need for him to slowly refine the medicinal power at all. Instead, he could do it quickly. In just 3 days, he had finished refining all 300+ blood pills. This was not something that an ordinary immortal venerable or immortal king could do. Divine spirit body. To have finally become complete. What kind of ability do you have? The Sea Devil asked with great interest. Ning Fan inspected his own body and frowned slightly. He could clearly feel that he had indeed awakened some kind of divine ability at this moment. He should be considered as a true divine spirit body. As he willed it, he could even condense a small amount of golden divine power in his palm. However, he could not sense what kind of divine innate talent he had gained. His divine innate talent was not offensive or defensive abilities. It was not the increase of his cultivation base. It was not the transformation of his Dharma image. It was not the heavenly eyes or heavenly ears. No. None of them. He wanted to ask the Sea Devil what kind of divine innate talent he had. However, the Sea Devil's memory was incomplete. He could only helplessly hold his forehead. Just as Ning Fan was studying his divine innate talent, voices suddenly came from the stone pillars on the sacrificial altar. Stone pillar A. I am a stone pillar. Stone pillar B. It's so boring to stand guard on this sacrificial altar every day. Stone pillar C. This old man is so ugly, but this little brother is so handsome. I really want to marry him and give birth to little stone pillars for him. Stone pillar D, stone pillar V, stone pillar 6, the sacrificial altar. These 2 people have stepped on me for 3 days and 3 nights. Why are they still standing on me? It's so annoying. The ruins that were formed when Ning Fan and the Sea Devil fought just now, I am a mountain. I am a destroyed mountain. I am in so much pain. Why are you guys fighting and dragging me down? Please don't hit me anymore, alright? The ants on the ground. I will crawl. I will crawl. I will crawl with all my strength. The wind in the sky. Blow. Blow. I am naked. I am not afraid. The clothes on Ningfan's body. I am clothes. Clothes. The shoes on Ningfan's feet. I am shoes. I am shoes. What's going on? Could it be that his divine innate talent is listening to the inner thoughts of the living beings and inanimate objects around him? Do these voices really exist? Or am I hallucinating in my consciousness? Ningfan told the Sea Devil all the voices he heard at this moment. The Sea Devil's expression immediately became strange. You are joking, right? Obviously, it did not believe that Ningfan had the ability to listen to the voices of all living beings. Ningfan shook his head helplessly. He initially thought that the so-called divine innate talent that awakened his divine innate talent would give him a qualitative leap. Unexpectedly, it turned out to be such a strange ability. Or perhaps, there was something wrong with the blood pills that he consumed. He ate too many of them and his brain was damaged, causing him to hallucinate. However, no matter what, it seemed like the current him could really condense the divine power that belonged to ancient divine beings, although the amount of divine power he could condense was still very little. External cultivator. Help me remove the black stick, and it will owe you a favor. The Sea Devil no longer cared about Ningfan listening to the voices of all living beings and begged him. At the same time, in Lioli City of the Middle State, in a music house called Xiaofang, Supreme 10 Bees who was leading the dance in front of the customers raised her eyebrows slightly. It's actually the rarest of the 9 great divine techniques, the communication of all living beings. This butterfly's innate talent is actually this high? Chapter 1070. Wu Yen felt that she had slept for a long time. In a daze, she was a little worried about what would happen to her adopted sister after she was convicted, but she couldn't open her eyes. Her injuries were too severe. This was the result of disobeying Hundred Flower Emperor's order. The rumor that she was implicated by the external cultivator was false. The real reason why she was abolished and locked in the altar of the Sea Valley was because she broke her promise with Hundred Flower Emperor. In her sleep, the scene of Hundred Flower Emperor descending upon the Sea Witch tribe and inflicting punishment on her replayed in her mind over and over again. Hee, what an infatuated seed. You are blaming me for attacking that external cultivator, so you deliberately hid all the South Sea spring water and didn't give it to me, right? Unfortunately, that external cultivator has already escaped from the Supreme Dan's sacred region. He won't know that in order to fight for him, you actually dared to violate the agreement with me. Killing you directly is too easy on you. It just so happens that there is still one empty blood prison in the Sea Witch tribe's smelting god cauldron. I will lock you in there and let you suffer eternal torture. This is your last chance. Hand over the South Sea spring water and I can pretend that nothing happened. Otherwise, you won't be able to escape from the blood ball cage for the rest of your life. As a witch of the Sea Witch tribe, you should understand this the best. Good. Very good. Since you are so stubborn, don't blame me for not showing mercy. Pain, so painful, how could it not hurt when all the witch bones in her body were broken? Was it because of that external cultivator that she disobeyed Hundred Flower Emperor's order? No, she felt that she did not do it for such a simple reason. Hundred Flower Emperor was a tumor of the Sea Witch tribe. 1,000 years ago, she was seriously injured and on the verge of death because of the trip to the fierce domain continent. Now, her physical body was destroyed by the blood martial master. Her current injuries were several times more serious than before. If there was no South Sea spring water to cure her, her injuries would never heal and would only worsen day by day. Even if Hundred Flower Emperor did not die from her injuries, she would sooner or later be killed by the other great emperors of the Middle State due to her declining strength. If Hundred Flower Emperor died, the Sea Witch tribe could regain its former freedom and no longer be poisoned by the so-called Elders group. She sacrificed herself and disobeyed Hundred Flower Emperor's order for the future of the Sea Witch tribe. Yes, that must be it. But perhaps, there was also a little bit of that external cultivator's influence. Well, just a little, that's what she told herself. She blamed herself. On that day when Ning Fan's punishment ring was destroyed by immortal Emperor Lei Yin, he instantly became a sinner and was chased by several immortal emperors. However, she did not help him. It was because she knew that even if she helped him, it would be impossible for her to help him with her insignificant cultivation base. But she still blamed herself. This kind of feeling had nothing to do with romance. It was just a kind of gratitude and debt towards Ning Fan. Back then, when she was surrounded by enemies in the Fire Soul Tower, it was Ning Fan who saved her. However, when Ning Fan was in trouble, there was nothing she could do. After the Master of the Blood Marshal was captured, Ning Fan also escaped from the Supreme Pill Sacred Region. She had once made a great vow of heart devils and owed Ning Fan a favor. However, it seemed like she would never have the chance to repay him. When Ning Fan was in trouble, she did not have the ability to help him. However, the Hundred Flower Emperor was obviously Ning Fan's ally. She obviously had the ability to help him. It's fine if she doesn't want to help him, but why did she have to be the first one to stand out and attack him? How shameless! Even if as the great emperor of the Middle State, I have to hunt down the criminal who destroyed the punishment ring, I don't have to be so ruthless, do I? Does she not even have a trace of guilt for betraying her ally? She's an emperor cultivator in vain. For some strange reason, she hid the spring water of the South Sea. For some strange reason, she disobeyed the Hundred Flower Emperor's order. She kept telling herself in her heart that she sacrificed herself for the future of the Sea Shaman tribe. However, now that she was in a deep sleep due to severe injuries, she could not help but look at her own heart. She was not such a great person. She just could not bear to see Ning Fan being betrayed by others. I have already reattached your elder sister's bones. As for her injuries, it won't be a big problem. I have left enough pills for you. In addition to the storage of your Sea Shaman tribe, she will recover sooner or later. According to my estimation, your elder sister will wake up in at most 3 days. While she was in a daze, she heard a man's voice. Who is it? It's so familiar yet so strange at the same time. It seems to be that external cultivator. But didn't he already escape from the Supreme Pill Sacred Region? Yes, it's a dream. She must have dreamed about this external cultivator because of what she was thinking about during the day. Big brother, thank you. You are really a good person. Wu Na has decided that when I grow up, I will marry Big Brother to repay his kindness. It was Wu Na's voice. Even Wu Na had dreamed about that external cultivator? Wu Na actually wanted to marry that external cultivator? Kiki, Wu Na should have never seen that external cultivator before. Her brain must have been damaged for her to dream of such illogical things. Wu Ming, if it wasn't for you who eliminated the 1 king and 3 venerated beings that the 100 Flowers Peak planted in our tribe, I would never have been released from the prison and see the light of day again. It's all thanks to you that the elders of our tribe can be rebuilt and the witch can escape from the blood prison. Are you really not going to stay in our tribe for a few more days? We, the people of the Sea Witch tribe, still want to repay your kindness. She actually dreamed of Elder Wu Ming's voice. Ever since the 100 Flowers Emperor interfered with the affairs of the Sea Shaman tribe, all the former elders were imprisoned. Elder Wu Ming should still be locked up in prison right now. I won't stay. The news of Bai Lu's death will soon spread throughout the entire Great Prairie. If I stay here, it may cause unnecessary trouble for your tribe. Besides, I still have other things to do. It's impossible for me to stay here for a long time. As for your tribe's guardian god, he no longer complies with the deal with the 100 Flowers Emperor and will protect you again. I believe that with him around, no force in the entire Great Prairie will dare to attack your Sea Shaman tribe again. It was that external cultivator's voice again. What a reassuring voice. What? Lord Guardian God has decided to protect us again. It was Elder Wu Ming's overjoyed voice. Then, the voice gradually became softer and could not be heard clearly. But she had not heard enough. Sleepy, so sleepy. Deep sleep, still deep sleep. After sleeping for a long time, Wu Yan opened her eyes in a daze. As soon as she woke up, she still felt pain in her limbs and bones, but her broken bones had actually been fixed by someone. Although there were injuries in her body, they were not as serious as before. Instead, they were recovering at every moment. In the dazzling morning light, Wu Yan gradually saw the furnishings in the house clearly. The bed that she was sleeping on and the house that she lived in was the house that she lived in when she was a witch. She was not in the 12-blood prison of the smelting god cauldron? What happened? The blood prison of the smelting god cauldron was something that even the 100 Flowers Emperor could not break. It could only imprison people and not release them. She clearly remembered that her bones were broken and she was locked in the blood prison of the smelting god cauldron, but why was she in her own house? That was the blood prison that even the 100 Flowers Emperor could not break. Everything in front of me, could it be a dream? Sister, you're awake. That's great. Big Brother said that you would wake up in 3 days. I didn't believe him at first, but I didn't expect it to be true. Big Brother's prediction is really accurate. It was Wu Na who entered the house with a basin of water to wipe her face. Her little face was filled with joy. Big Brother? Who is the Big Brother you're talking about? Wu Yan rubbed her head and gradually woke up from her drowsiness. She did not know why, but she recalled that when she was unconscious, she seemed to have a strange dream where she was touched by a man all over her body. In that dream, there was also the little girl Wu Na who kept calling Big Brother, Big Brother, Big Brother, at the side. It was Big Brother who helped you fix your bones. She was actually touched all over by someone. Wu Yan was shocked. Big Brother even said that your chest is small. He said that your chest is obviously not big, so why did you do such a brainless thing and disobeyed the orders of the 100 Flowers Emperor? Stupid. You're too stupid. How is my chest small? At least it's above the average for women. Sorry. Wait a minute. Was I scolded for having big breasts and no brains? Big Brother said that if you wake up, he will tell you that he has been here and is going to leave again. As for the favor that you owe him, he doesn't need you to return it. He said that he has already taken away all the South Ocean spring water that you hid. This item will be considered as repayment. The favor of saving my life. It's him. It's him. He actually took away the South Ocean spring water that I carefully hid and even the 100 Flowers Emperor could not find? As expected of him. What the great ability is the Big Brother that you mentioned called Ning Fan? Wu Yan asked anxiously. Because she spoke too quickly, she started coughing violently. I don't know. Big Brother didn't say his name. He also didn't show his true appearance in front of Wu Na. Everyone called him the ugly warrior and the ugly hero. They said that he wore a mask because he was ugly. However, Elder Wu Ming secretly told Wu Na that Big Brother is not ugly. He just wears a mask because his identity is special. He doesn't want to bring disaster to the Sea Shaman tribe by colluding with external cultivators with his true identity. Wu Yan smiled bitterly. That's right. That external cultivator is not ugly at all. Was he the one who saved me in the blood prison? As expected of him. His methods are really heaven-defying. The voice that I heard in my dream is not an illusion. He came but he left again, at a time that I did not know. Big sister, why are you sighing? It's nothing. Nah. Can you tell me what happened during this period of time? How is our Sea Shaman tribe now? All right. Let Wu Na tell me about Big Brother's glorious deeds. Big Brother is Wu Na's great savior and hero. He is also the great savior and hero of our Sea Shaman tribe. When Wu Na grows up, she must marry Big Brother. Ning Fan did not stay in the Sea Shaman tribe for long. After helping the Sea Devil remove the black stick from his body, he sent Wu Na and her sister back to the Sea Shaman tribe and left. At the same time, he also took away the supreme treasure of the Sea Shaman tribe, the 7th of the 9 great medicine refinement cauldrons used by medicine sage Nin when he was still alive, the divine smelting cauldron. Ning Fan could finally control his ability to communicate with all living things freely. He no longer needed to listen to the thoughts of the things around him all the time. He could only hear them when he activated his divine power to listen to them. This ability was not a useless skill. After familiarizing himself with this skill, Ning Fan actually found the spring water of the South Sea that Wu Yen carefully hid in a place where spirit sense could not reach. He still remembered that when he was talking to the ants and flowers on the ground, Wu Na stared at him with an expression that said, "Big brother is so childish." However, it was these inconspicuous things that told Ning Fan the various traces of Wu Yen when he hid the spring water of the South Sea. Thus, Ning Fan talked to the strange things along the way and found the place where Wu Yen hid the spring water. It was a strange cave that was formed innately and could block the spirit sense of cultivators. It was impossible to find this place with just spirit sense and abilities. However, if he could ask for information from all living things in this world, there was almost no secret in this world that could hide from Ning Fan. The ability to communicate with all living things was an ability that was far beyond the comprehension of cultivators. Even the immortal emperor, Hai Mo, who had lost his memories, found it hard to believe that such an unimaginable ability existed in this world. However, it really existed. After leaving the Sea Shaman tribe, Ning Fan returned to the Fierce Domain continent. He brought Ouyang Nuan and the others to a 6th grade continent and temporarily kept them in the profound Yin world. A few days later, Ning Fan appeared outside the barrier of a 7th grade continent. A massive barrier power enveloped the deepest region of the Fierce Domain continent. It made it impossible for any cultivator from the Great Prairie to enter without the token of the 5 emperors of the Middle Province. Ning Fan did not have such a thing. However, according to Zhang Yu, the corpses of the experts that Medicine Saint Nen killed with his medicine were somewhere in the deepest region of this fierce domain. As for the innate sacrificial vessel of the 9 Fox clan, it seemed like they were really somewhere in this direction. In the past, he could not find out the whereabouts of the 9 Raccoon sacrificial vessel. Thus, he could only make a deal with the 100 Flower Emperor and try to get some information from her. Today, however, after his ancient god, ancient demon and ancient devil cultivation bases had reached a certain level, he naturally cultivated the crippled divine spirit body with the help of the yin-yang transformation. Even though the current strength of his spirit sense still could not allow him to use a heaven-defying sensing skill like the Spirit Wonder 10,000 Li, the range of his rain technique had increased by more than a few times compared to before. Even without the information from the 100 Flower Emperor, he could still vaguely determine the approximate range of the 9 Raccoon sacrificial vessel with his rain technique. As for the specific location, he could use the rain technique and the communication of all living things to slowly find it after finding its approximate location. He must save Sovereign Tuesday. However, there was still some time before Sovereign Tu's execution. He could still make some preparations. If he could find a suitable physical body for Zhang Yu and find a way to seize it within a short period of time, he would immediately have a 9 Tribulation Immortal Emperor as his subordinate. Wouldn't that increase his chances of success? Thus, he searched all the way to the outside of the barrier of the 7 Tribulations continent. It was a very powerful barrier. If a cultivator who did not possess the Tri-Flame bloodline or a cultivator from the grassland who had obtained the permission to pass through the barrier, he or she would be killed by it. After all, it was set up by the Southern Medicine Saint. It possessed a trace of the power of the 3rd step. Its destructive power was certainly not to be underestimated. It was even stronger than the characters of the saints inscribed on the Great Bay Steel. Ning Fan could activate the God-destroying giant and forcefully break through the barrier. However, according to his estimation, the success rate of doing so would not be more than 50%. Moreover, it would also attract the attention of the cultivators of the Tri-Flame bloodline who were guarding this place. Then, they would send a message to the headquarters of the Tri-Flame continent. At that time, it was highly likely that the cultivators of the Tri-Flame bloodline would hunt him down crazily. Then, it would not be easy to find a suitable physical body. How should I sneak into the depths of the Tri-Flame continent silently? Ning Fan looked at the barrier in front of him and pondered for a moment. Then he decided to have a chat with it. After activating his divine power, he immediately heard the voice of the barrier. "I am the barrier. I am the barrier. This path is blocked. This path is blocked." Ning Fan remained silent for a while. Finally, he decided to take the step that was akin to a lunatic. He said shamelessly, Hello, barrier. I don't have a permit. Can you open a passage for me and let me in? No. No way. This is my duty. I can't let you in. The barrier was loyal to its duty. Can't you make an exception? No way. No way. I am the most loyal barrier warrior. The barrier said proudly. Girl? Barriers are actually divided into male and female? That's right. The Tai Chi gives birth to yin and yang. The yin and yang give birth to all living things in the world. All living things in the world are divided into male and female. All of them have yin and yang. This barrier is the yin of the barrier in this place. No wonder it calls itself a girl. If it's a girl, perhaps my bewitching technique that specifically restrains female cultivators will be effective. Ning Fan sighed helplessly. He half-jokingly sent out a ray of chaotic world purple mist towards the barrier. This was a technique he occasionally used to deal with female cultivators in the past. It was the strongest technique among the many bewitching techniques he had. He did not think that this bewitching technique would really work on the barrier. It was just a half-joking attempt. It could be considered as a response to the barrier calling itself a girl. Immediately after that, a strange scene appeared. In the past, the chaotic world purple mist would never work on the barrier. Today, however, the power of the purple mist directly disrupted the flow of the yin formation in this place. It even caused the barrier to emit a feminine moan that only Ning Fan could hear. Stop it. Not here. We're almost there. Damn it. We're almost there. You shameless cultivator. You don't even let go of a female barrier. You're inhuman. Amidst the shameful curses, the yin formation in this place became even more chaotic. Gradually, some areas where the power of the barrier was uneven actually cracked open, allowing a person to pass through. There was no time to lose this opportunity. Ning Fan's face was filled with surprise at first. Then he regained his senses. He did not care why the barrier was destroyed by his bewitching technique and directly entered the barrier in a flash. He stepped on the land of the three flames inland. Shameless. Bastard. Animal. Hurry up and stop your bewitching technique. If you dare to violate me again, I will kill myself in front of you. You've tainted my beauty. You've tainted me. You're inhuman. It was the barrier's miserable cry. Ning Fan was slightly speechless. No matter how thirsty he would not go to the extent of getting aroused by a barrier that had no chest, buttocks, or body. Moreover, he even tainted her. He did not even take off his pants. The bewitching technique was just a half-joking attempt. Who would have thought that it would actually work? This was something that even Ning Fan himself did not expect. In the past, the chaotic world purple mist could only attack female cultivators. However, ever since he awakened his divine innate talent of communicating with all living things, everything seemed to be different. Ning Fan then tried other bewitching techniques and realized that only the chaotic world purple mist had such a heaven-defying ability. The other bewitching techniques were ineffective against barriers. The chaotic world purple mist seems to be special, Ning Fan pondered for a while. Divine beings were also humans. However, divine beings who awaken the ability to communicate with all living things could no longer be considered as humans. At this moment, Ning Fan felt that he was like nature itself. Every species that existed in the world could be his own kind. He thought of the barbarian cultivators. He remembered that all living things in the mountains and seas in the barbarians' eyes had their own souls. If the ancient gods, ancient demons and ancient devils cultivated by imitating the spirit and blood of the ancient divine beings respectively, the barbarian race cultivated by imitating the divine beings as one with nature. To the ancient divine beings, humans were no different from the plants, mountains and rivers, birds and beasts in the natural world. Eating vegetables was also killing them. Eating beasts was also killing them. Eating humans was also killing them. There was no difference between them. The ancient divine beings were more like the messengers of nature. As for the divine beings who awaken the ability to communicate with all living things, they were more like the creators of nature. It was also because of this that his bewitching technique had such a godlike invading ability. He actually used the chaotic world purple mist to affect the yin formation barrier of this place. The innate talent of communicating with all living things that I awaken seems to be very strong. As for the chaotic world purple mist, it seems to be a type of bewitching technique that can be used together with my innate talent of communicating with all living things. Could it be that the chaotic world purple mist created by the ancient chaos great emperor was originally a divine ability tailored for the divine beings who could communicate with all living things? No wonder it has such an arrogant name like the chaotic world purple mist. If it's just a bewitching technique, it won't be able to create chaos and destroy a country. However, if this purple mist can restrain all the Yin elements in the world, then it's a different story. Ning Fan's eyes flashed. Suddenly, he patted his storage pouch and released a lot of magic treasures that he had obtained from the battle. There were more than 100 of them. He did not even know the names of most of these magic treasures. He did not even remember which unlucky bastard he had snatched them from. As soon as the magic treasures rose into the sky, Ning Fan released the chaotic world purple mist and swept it across the sky. Immediately, 70% of the magic treasures were wiped out by the chaotic world purple mist and fell to the ground like ordinary weapons. Only 30% of the magic treasures were not affected by the purple mist. The power of the mother and son flying swords was directly sealed by the purple mist. The 3,000 refined yin-yang hammers were directly swept to the ground by the purple mist. The 9 yin soul seizing streamer was directly swept away by the purple mist as the 9 great soul streamers were all fed with the souls of women. It would be fine if it was a pure yang magic treasure that could ignore the power of the purple mist. However, if it was a pure yin magic treasure that was intertwined with yin and yang, it would not be able to withstand the purple mist at all. The power of the yin qi would be directly sealed by the purple mist. Ning Fan took a deep breath and kept all the magic treasures and the purple mist. He was sure of one thing. This chaotic world purple mist was indeed a divine ability tailor-made for a divine being like him. With this divine ability, as long as the opponent's magic treasure was not a pure yang magic treasure and did not exceed the control range of his bewitching technique, they would not even be qualified to fight against him. They would be swept away by the chaotic world purple mist in just a single move. Divine abilities were also divided into yin and yang. Puppets were also divided into yin and yang. Formation techniques were also divided into yin formation and yang formation. Grass, trees, mountains, rivers and everything else had yin and yang. All yin objects would be suppressed by the chaotic world purple mist. How terrifying was this? Unfortunately, Great Emperor Ancient Chaos did not cultivate to the level of an ancient divine being. He did not have the ability to communicate with all living things. Therefore, it was impossible for this divine ability to have such a terrifying power in the hands of Ancient Chaos. Because of this, Great Emperor Ancient Chaos only had the 5 yin-yang swords, Chaotic Heavenly Finger and Tao seizing from the void which were known to the world. The Tao of bewitching technique was regarded as a minor Tao. However, Ning Fan was different. This chaotic world purple mist might become famous in Ning Fan's hands and shock the entire generation. Ning Fan withdrew the purple mist that had invaded the barrier and closed it again. Then, he erased all the traces of him invading the 3 flames and vanished without a trace. 2 days later, on the Wood Flame continent, a silver-haired guest with a ghostly face arrived at the territory of the He clan. Before entering the He clan, this ghostly face silver-haired guest used an illusory technique and his entire appearance changed. He no longer had the ghostly face and silver hair. Instead, he became an ordinary-looking middle-aged scholar. The 3 flames were divided into the Stone Flame, Wood Flame, and Sky Flame. In terms of overall strength, the Stone Flame was the strongest, followed by the Wood Flame and the Sky Flame. Of course, in terms of peak strength, the strongest cultivator of the 3 flames would be the master of the Sky Flame. The Wood Flame was an existence that was neither strong nor weak among the 3 flames. The He clan, on the other hand, was one of the top forces among the tens of thousands of forces on the Wood Flame continent. It was a major pill refinement clan of the Wood Flame continent. The pill refinement techniques of the He clan were completely inherited from Medicine Saint Nan. Moreover, they had inherited a bad habit of Medicine Saint Nan's. They liked to use living people to test their pills, and they would also recruit cultivators from the outside world to be their medicine slaves. Every year, countless medicine slaves would be killed by the cultivators of the He clan. However, the strange thing was that the corpses of the medicine slaves who were killed would not be thrown into the wilderness. Instead, they would be secretly disposed of. As for how they were disposed of, no one had ever seen it before. There was a rumor saying that there was a huge forbidden area in the He clan that was used to store the corpses of medicine slaves. There was also another rumor saying that the progenitor of the He clan had stolen all the medicine slave corpses that the sacred ancestor had collected when he was still alive. Every year, a large number of cultivators from the Three Flames would visit the He clan. Some of them would ask the He clan to concoct pills for them, some of them would apply to be the medicine slaves of the He clan, and some of them would even come here to purchase the corpses of the He clan. Occasionally, there would be some troublemakers. However, because the He clan was a force that had an immortal emperor overseeing it, the He clan would always be able to stand firm despite the various disturbances. 2 hours later, one of the countless stewards of the He clan began to receive some of the guests in one of the guest tents of the He clan. This steward was called Hizunsi. His cultivation base was at the Shedding Void initial stage. At this moment, he was sitting cross-legged on the main seat of the tent. He was holding a bowl of spirit tea and was carefully sipping it. He did not even raise his head as he spoke to the 20 cultivators sitting below him. "Are all of you here to apply to be the medicine slaves of my He clan?" The Life Immortals and Enlightenment stage guests replied. "Do you know the He clan's rules for hiring medicine slaves?" "Yes. Those who are not at the second step will not be hired. The higher the cultivation, the higher the reward. Of course, the higher the risk. The salary will be paid once every 3 years. The survival rate of medicine slaves is less than 30%. However, the benefits of surviving 30% are also great. Since you all know, this old man will not speak any more nonsense. Consume the pills in front of you. Then this old man will bring you to the next place to settle down. This old man will remind you in advance that the He clan welcomes the guests who sincerely want to be medicine slaves. We also thank you for your contributions to the He clan. However, if you are someone who covets the secret of the He clan's medicine corpses, you will be poisoned to death the moment you consume this pill. It is not too late for those who have ill intentions to leave now." Once Hizunsi said this, the expressions of 3 people below him changed slightly. They clenched their teeth and finally found an excuse to bid farewell to Hizunsi. The other 18 people consumed the pills in front of them one by one. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, 4 people suddenly spat out black blood and died. The remaining people were all existences that the He clan could trust. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the few cultivators who found an excuse to leave were sent in by the He clan guards outside with bloody heads. Seeing this, the expressions of many cultivators who applied to be medicine slaves changed slightly. Hizunsi put down his teacup, clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Not bad. Among the 21 people, there are actually 14 that can be trusted." Now, this old man will announce that this group of people has been hired by the He clan. For the next 3 years, you will be the medicine slaves of the He clan. If you do not have any rebellious thoughts, the He clan will not treat you unfairly. Hizunsi stood up and walked towards the guests one by one. He began to carefully inquire about the names and origins of the guests. When he asked in front of a middle-aged scholar, he suddenly saw that the middle-aged scholar's left eye seemed to have flashed for a moment, but it also seemed as if it had never flashed before. Hizunsi was in a daze. He did not seem to have noticed the change and asked the middle-aged scholar in a pleasant manner, "How should I address you, little friend? Where did you work in the past?" "This junior's name is Liu Bei. I used to cultivate in the Standing Sky Mountain of the Wood Flame continent. I am a rogue cultivator." The middle-aged scholar answered. "Rogue cultivator, is it? Rogue cultivator is good. A rogue cultivator is the best. You are very good. From today onwards, all of you will be part of a shur and you will be the leader of this shur." "Yes." Seeing that the middle-aged scholar was directly appointed as the leader of the group by Hizunsi just because he claimed to be a rogue cultivator, a few of the clan's cultivators whose cultivation was slightly higher than the middle-aged scholar were immediately dissatisfied. However, they did not dare to show their anger or question Hizunsi's order. They could only have their own plans in their hearts. Half a day later, this group of people was brought by Hizunsi to a top-secret spatial forbidden area of the He clan. Every single one of them had their own individual house. This spatial zone was separated into 4 regions by someone using a great divine ability. The middle-aged scholar and the others were brought to the first region that was the outermost region. In this region, there were a total of 10,000 herb slaves. They were all people who had been in the He clan for less than 3 years. If they were still alive after being a herb slave for 3 years, they had 2 choices. One was to take the reward and leave the He clan. The other was to sign a 30-year contract and enter the second region to continue being a herb slave. Of course, if there were some herb slaves with special constitutions, they could obtain special permission to enter the second region. The He clan? They are so cautious even when looking for a herb slave. It seems like what Zhang Yu said was right. The countless medicinal corpses left behind by the southern medicine saint are probably really in this He clan. In the individual house, the middle-aged scholar who was originally sitting cross-legged in meditation suddenly muttered to himself after sensing that the spirit sense that was probing around him had disappeared. He was none other than Ning Fan, who had disguised himself and sneaked into the He clan. The reason why he came here to apply for the position of a herb slave was none other than to find a suitable shelter for Zhang Yu. The He clan was guarded by an immortal emperor. If he were to invade them head-on, it would be too difficult. However, if he were to sneak in secretly, even if the other party had an immortal emperor, they might not be able to detect Ning Fan's secret actions. The He clan's pill refinement technique is really unique. They can actually concoct a poisonous pill that can test one's Dao heart. Those cultivators who harbored evil intentions towards the He clan died after consuming the pill. However, this level of poisonous power is completely unable to harm my divine spirit body. Naturally, it can't kill me. The 4 major regions of this spatial zone are separated by barriers. Moreover, the level of these barriers is not low. The corpse of a first-grade immortal emperor herb slave seems to be stored in the 4th region, which is the deepest region. Now, I have 2 choices. One is to use the power of the chaotic world purple mist to find the location of the information of this spatial zone and sneak in secretly. The other is to consume some powerful poisonous pills and become a high-quality herb slave. Then, I will be promoted step by step and be sent to a higher-level region by the He clan. After pondering for a while, Ning Fan gave up the idea of invading directly. He could vaguely sense that there was a 6th tribulation immortal emperor guarding the 4th region. If he uses the chaotic world purple mist to break the barrier, there would more or less be some fluctuations of the barrier. It's better to be safe and observe the situation first before taking action. While he was pondering, he suddenly heard the sound of footsteps outside the door. Then, the door of Ning Fan's house was directly kicked open by someone. Humph! You're Liu Bei, right? You're just a rogue cultivator. How dare you dream of becoming our 10-man squad leader? I would like to see what qualifications you have to step on my head. It was a late True Crossing Realm burly man. He led a few early and mid-True Crossing Realm cultivators to pick a fight with Ning Fan. These people came in a menacing manner. Their expressions were extremely ruthless. The medicine slaves of the He clan were managed according to the military system of the ancient cultivators. As a 10-man squad leader, he had a certain level of authority. For example, he could move freely within a small area of the house. He could manage and punish the medicine slaves of the same clan. Also, he could choose the type of pill to test for the He clan to seek luck and avoid calamity. If Ning Fan was a cultivator from a big clan, they would not dare to offend him. Unfortunately, Ning Fan was just a rogue cultivator. If he was a rogue cultivator, they could kill Ning Fan without anyone noticing. Then, they would be able to choose a new 10-man squad leader. These people came for Ning Fan's 10-man squad leader's position. Ning Fan was disguised as a middle-aged scholar. His cultivation base was only at the mid-true crossing realm. In the eyes of this late true crossing realm cultivator, this cultivation base was not worth mentioning. Moreover, he had brought a few true crossing realm helpers with him. He was even more confident in dealing with Ning Fan. Initially, he thought that Ning Fan's face would be filled with anger and fear because of his arrival. However, he did not see any of these expressions on Ning Fan's face. In Ning Fan's eyes, he saw a coldness that was as cold as the eternal ice. What an ice-cold gaze! What kind of terrifying killing intent was that? It was as if Ning Fan was the heavenly Tao in front of these people in this house, and he could even replace it. With just a single gaze, this late true crossing realm cultivator and the people behind him were so frightened by Ning Fan's gaze that they fell to the ground. Their limbs trembled uncontrollably. They could no longer utter a single word that was originally arrogant and provocative. How many people did he have to kill to possess such terrifying baleful chi? It seemed like he had even killed an immortal venerable before. It seemed like he had even killed an immortal king before. It seemed like he had even killed a peak immortal king before. What kind of background does this Liu Bei have? He is definitely not a mid-true crossing realm rogue cultivator. Could it be that this person is actually an immortal emperor who is plotting against the He clan? That's right. If he isn't an immortal emperor, how could he possibly kill a peak immortal king? Just as these people were about to suffocate from Ning Fan's gaze, Ning Fan suddenly withdrew his aura force. Then, a demonic light flashed in his left eye. All of a sudden, the few Duzhen cultivators felt that the world was spinning around them. Their eyes were filled with confusion. After that, they actually forgot about what had happened just now. They respectfully bowed to Ning Fan and repaired the broken door before bidding farewell and leaving. They had already become Ning Fan's slaves under his illusion technique. Just like the Hezuns Shikong, all of them were controlled by Ning Fan's illusion technique. Every day, the cultivators of the He clan in this world will bring pills for the medicine slaves to consume. Sergeants have a certain level of authority and they can choose the type of pills that they consume. If I want to enter a higher level area, I won't be able to become medicine slaves with just the level of sergeants. Since that's the case, I will consume some poisonous pills to quickly advance my cultivation. Only then can I display the value of my physical body. Hee. The so-called medicine slaves are actually just a scam of the He clan. The survival rate is only 30%, huh? Those who are able to survive here are probably the physical bodies that the He clan doesn't need. Ning Fan's eyes narrowed slightly. With his intelligence, he had already seen through everything about the He clan. If the so-called medicine slave was just a scam, then he didn't mind using this scam to plot against the He clan. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.